do not adjust your radio dial. You are tuned in to the Mark Order Podcast. Join the Mark Order.
Unprofessional. I'm so sorry, Schlong. I let you down.
It happens, you know. What can we say? You're getting ready for your big break.
Trying to update a couple things. Like while I'm doing this, I'm multitasking. You know, it is what it is. I'm sorry. I should have. You know what, Schlong? Here's the promise I make to you. I promise that I'm going to do better. How about that?
I appreciate that.
I promise I'm going to be better.
Much appreciated.
Well, it is Wednesday night. Winter is now upon us. And it is the Mark Order Podcast here on Shining Wizards Network. Let's see. We've got Ryan Schlong here. Hello, Ryan. How are you?
Hello, Anthony. Hello, world. Doing great this evening.
Well, you know, it's fun because winter's now here, right? So that's why this is now fun. Yeah, I don't know. Not much going on. We're waiting for our third wheel, Ryan.
Always waiting.
Always the bridesmaid, never the bride, I guess, right?
Sorry, that just took me a second to register what you said. Yep. Well, you know, she likes to big time us.
Yeah, well, we're not going to spoil where she is because she'll do that. Welcome to the Mark Order Podcast. Sorry, I feel like we're all out of sorts. I started out unprofessional. I had a thing up, and I shouldn't have been up. I apologize. I don't know what day it is. It's Wednesday. I think it's winter now, Ryan, right? Winter is now here.
Yeah, winter has come.
Winter is come. The holidays are upon us, and it's episode 90 of the Mark Order Podcast on the Shining Wizards Network. AntMoney here, Ryan Schlong here, waiting for Kate the Great to show up if she ever decides to. But Schlong, what's good, my man?
Not much. Enjoyed Dynamite tonight.
I enjoyed Dynamite too, but we'll definitely talk about it because there was a lot of times where I found myself saying, Jesus Christ, get your shit together. Sort of like this show right now.
Yeah, I want to hold on real quick. I want to point out something to Kyle to make him feel better. Kyle K. Sparks is annoyed that Winter's Coming occurred a week before the official start of Winter. Well, of course, it comes before the actual start of Winter. It's coming.
Yeah, it's coming. And it came hard. Well.
Hi.
Who finally decided to show up?
Miss Daphne was being high maintenance.
Well, why don't you, Daphne? We didn't say where you were because we didn't want to spill your beans. What's new in your world, Kate?
I got a new doggo.
A new doggo.
Yes, she is lying on my foot right now. Very, very, very sweet. Very, like in disbelief that she has a home and a little gun shy. We had like she was a little like, still coming out of her shell for sure. Very, very much Velcro dog. Like anytime I stop petting her for 2 seconds, just with her nose, like, hey, why did you do that?
Sure.
So right now she's on my foot. But when I came in to sit down to podcast, she was like pacing a little bit, and she is heartworm positive, so we have to keep her heart rate down until her heartworm shots are in. So no zoomies for us in the beginning stages of her being here.
So why don't you tell this story? So we were talking last week. You were going on a couple dog dates.
It was.
Nothing had panned out, but clearly something's panned out. So what kind of dog? How old is she? Is she a rescue? Give us the details.
She is. So there was this German Shepherd who I couldn't stop thinking about. It's kind of funny. I went to see him. His name was Jack. He was so cute. But I live in a 2-bedroom apartment, and I was like, if his energy is good, he'll be comfortable here. Like, it's a big apartment, but he was 60 pounds full grown. So for a German, he was on the smaller side. But I was like, I can take him to the dog park as long as he's good with other dogs. And so I ask about how he is with other dogs, and they're like, I don't know how to say this other than he's inappropriate. He humps every dog, and the dogs that he doesn't hump, he herds. Like, they did a dog behavioral test, and they were like, he immediately, in his first day here, was like, I assert my dominance by humping everybody and herding the rest to try and take over the shelter. And I was like, well, if I can't take him to the dog park, he's probably not going to be very happy here. Like, because he'll be too big. He'll have too much energy. I can't let him off leash. But while I was at the rescue, St. Hubert's in Madison, New Jersey, they were fantastic rescue to adopt from. They're affiliated with a hospital that's right there. So there were 2 other dogs. There was a lab retriever mix named Sparky, who was so sweet, but definitely like puppy, coming out of puppy stage, needs a lot of work, very hyper. And I was like, okay, well, he definitely wouldn't do well in a non-yard situation then. And I could take him to the dog park, but he would be so unhappy in the limited space. And then there was this dog. Her name was Sutton originally, but she doesn't respond to it at all. She's 4 years old. She's an Australian Shepherd Blue Heeler mix, we think. Her coat is like a fur coat, like a plush rug. Like, her hair is like so thick. And she's so sweet. And she literally just like, they have this huge play area where you can kind of interact with the dogs. And she just walked up to me and laid down and was like, belly rubs, please. And I was like, yep, you're coming home with me. And that's been kind of the story. She was very sweet. She is, because she's heartworm positive, she's like a little bit of a chunker too, because we can't take her for longer than 5-minute walks. So there's really no like exercise options. So she's a bit of a potato. But yeah, it's been all smooth sailing so far. Slept through the night super well. I haven't heard her make a sound. Like, she's still very, very introverted, but she started eating today, and she just is everywhere I am, man. It's been a really, really fun 48 hours to have a dog go back here. So good things.
Well, I have 2 things. One, that German Shepherd sounds a lot like Schlong. Humping and herding? That sounds like Schlong. That's Schlong's dog.
That's the captain more. But I was even thinking of Buster.
I don't hurt anyone.
Okay, just humping.
Not hurting. Herding.
Oh, herding.
Like rallying up all the other dogs to try and take over the
I think you said
shelter.
hurting the other dogs.
No, herd.
No.
I misheard, Kate.
Boom. Also, boy, Australian Shepherd, you said, or sheep?
Australian Shepherd Blue Heeler mix. Yeah.
Oh, she's gonna wanna run around and exercise a lot. That's good.
I think it'll be really good when she's up to speed and feeling better. She definitely, like, we could only do the 5-minute walks, and she like walks like those overweight dogs, like just kind of like waddles and with some pressure on her back legs. So once we can get into a more consistent routine, I think it'll be better. But she's just a big old chunk of love right now, and it's been very fun to have her around.
You know, the funny thing is, you said when you met her, she came over and like laid over, and like that was what you knew. Well, when we got Savannah, we rescued Savannah from a shelter, and we didn't go to see her. We went to see a different dog, and they were like, she's not available, or I don't even remember. I think this was a story. Mrs. Money's going to tell me in the chat that I'm all wrong, and that's fine. But I think what happened was we went for one dog, and it didn't work out. And then Gina had seen Savannah and said, "Is it possible that we could see her?" And they said, "You have to. She's supposed to be seen by another family." And they looked at their clock and they were like, "They're actually supposed to be here now, but they're not. So like, come back in an hour and like, you could see her because if they don't take her, you can see her." And so that's what we did. We hung around and we went back. And when they brought her in, she walked right over to Gina and put her head on Gina's knee. And that I looked at Gina, I was like, "That's it. You're
Getting
done."
set match. When I walked Buster for the first time, it was at an adoption event, like in Queens. Tons of dogs there. We walked him and he just put his head into my knee, and I was like, "Done forever. We're walking him home right now." It was like very close to my apartment, but I was like, I don't think it's like that extremely cheesy thing of like, they chose me, right? That like white girls love to say, but like she really did.
I told you you're not allowed to say that, Kate. I told you
But
you're not allowed to have this story.
She walked right over and just like, that was it, man. She was done. I was done. It was so funny.
Mrs. Money put in the chat, the original dog who went to see was Giant. And then there was a hound. They were like, "Oh, this might be a good one." But he or she was deaf. So she was cool at first, and then she started howling. And we were like, that will not work because we're in a tiny 1-bedroom apartment on the 2nd floor. Like, it's not going to work. So yeah, then we saw Savannah. She put her knee on Gina's leg, and I just literally said, "Well, that's it." It's like, you love her.
We're done.
Well, congrats, Kate. Congrats.
Thank you.
Schlong, have you stolen the dogs you're supposed to be stealing yet?
No, Kate thought a 60-pound dog was too big, yet she wants 2 85-pound dogs? No.
I'll make it work.
Why not?
No, you clearly won't.
No, I won't. Well, it really is. It's so funny. I didn't even know. So the dog park that's by me is incredible. It feels like it's like acres long. I didn't know it existed because Buster wasn't always great with other dogs, and he was only 35 pounds, so he really didn't need it. But when it started this process of looking for another dog, one of the dogs I met was at this dog park, and I was like, "This place is incredible," and I never knew it existed.
Right.
So I was like, "Oh, that kind of opens me up to looking at bigger dogs," because I didn't even know it was there. But I think we'll see. She's very much. She doesn't know how to dog yet. Like, she doesn't know any commands, doesn't respond to a name. So we're going to have some work to do, I think. But she's just...
That's because she's a raccoon.
She is a raccoon. She does... I mean, a raccoon's tail completely. Like, it's black and fluffy with, like, white at the end. But yeah, she's been just slowly learning and realizing she's, like, safe, which is a really sweet thing to... to see, because she was like very introverted at the shelter. She was not scared or like cowering, but while other dogs were like playing in their pen, she was laying down like, "I'm an introvert. This is too much. I'm not gonna thrive here, but I'm okay." Like,
get me out.
Laying down there. Yeah. Then as soon as we got here, she like kind of poked around a little bit, but was constantly near me, and then just laid on the floor. And like tears, like little doggy tears, started crying and just like chilled out for a second and was like, "I can't believe I'm in a quiet space. There's no other dogs." Like you could kind of feel her vibe of just like, it's so calm here. So it's been a very good first 48 hours. We're doing all right.
Well, good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you're definitely going to get used to that dog park, because I have a feeling she's going to want to run around and play. So that'll be good.
I hope so. Yeah, she's we're very restricted right now, but I can see like she's had some spurts of energy, which make me happy. So
sure.
We will see.
And hey, if you're lucky, you don't have to act like a victim in your own house now.
It's true.
Remember, rest in peace, rest in power, Buster.
Yeah.
He get a little aggressive sometimes with the red rocket, right?
Pop out, yeah. He never grew at a puppy stage. Like, he was just a 7-year-old puppy when he passed away. That dog was insane.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Savannah, I don't know how old she is, but she's a puppy. She's
Yeah,
very,
it's so funny. Like,
I will say this though. She came up to me today, like she does a lot of times. She's like, "Oh, you've been here?" I'm like, "Yeah, I live here. I haven't left the house all day. You just forgot I was here." And she came up to me and it was the right angle. I pet her face and then I looked at her. I'm like, "Oh my God, you're so white now." Like her face is turning almost all white. She's getting
yeah.
old. She's an old salty bitch. Gina said in the chat, I grazed Savannah and she growled at me. Yeah, that's par for the course. She'll be laying there and you'll just like pat her head, like, not doing anything. She'll be laying on the couch and you'll pat her head or put your hand on her back and she'll just it's like, you bitch. I'm not doing anything.
Dang, trying to show you some love, girl.
I know. She's like, leave me alone. Get out of my space. Well, Schlong, that's a lot of news from Kate. Anything from your end? Anything as fun as getting a dog? Thinking.
No.
Okay.
You're snowed in over there, Schlong.
Winter is coming.
Looks like it's arrived.
Yeah.
Arrived some places
Looks like
earlier
it
than
came
others.
all over. Yeah, just white stuff everywhere behind you.
Just frozen ropes everywhere. Well, Schlong, I'm glad you're doing well and that your heat is working, so at least you're warm. Guys, I have some news I'd like to announce here today on the air.
I think I know what it is.
So, if you remember, for a good portion of this year, I've been talking about doing something for this
It's
podcast.
since last year.
Well, was it last year? Have we? Yeah,
I
we've
think
been
we
doing it
started
for over
before
a
the
year.
new year.
We started talking about it, and then it was like, I don't know. I have to get it together, and I don't know. And then it finally, what finally happened? And I'll spill the beans after we make the announcement, but people have been asking if there are other ways to support us as a podcast. Right now, we've only had the stickers. That's a free one. We're more than happy to send you some free stickers. Don't forget, you can go to the link tree and request those free stickers. P.S. You'll see we've added, I need your email address now because I've gotten like 2 requests with no address information whatsoever, and I have no way of reaching back
I
out
want
to people.
stickers, and I want you to send them to me, and I want you to guess where I live.
Right. So now
I'm from the 1940s, see? And we're going to do this my way, see?
23 Skidoo. Find me in the yellow pages.
Oh, I miss doing commentary.
So yeah, sticker wise, we've added an email so that I could say to people, please, I need your full email or I need your full address. So I'll never use your email unless I need to fill out your address because somebody literally gave me their name, the town, and the country. I was like, that won't help.
Send it
Anyway.
to everyone in the town, you coward.
That's right. So beyond that, people have been saying, is there any way that we can help support you? And I hadn't had a chance to get everything together. Until now, folks, we are very, very happy to announce here on episode 90 of the Mark Order podcast, December 14th in the year of our Lord 2022, that we finally have our pro wrestling tee store
Dun, 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 dun,
ready.
dun, dun,
Now,
dun, dun.
I'll say this. We have 4 designs up. That's all we are allowed to have right now. We have 4 designs up. We have our what we're calling our mic check logo, which is the logo you see everywhere, like on the show and whatnot. And you'll note that it's on a gray shirt. So I fucked that one up. It's supposed to be black. They're in the process of changing it. But if you really want to order one in gray, you certainly can. It might be one of a kind if you can get the order in soon enough.
It'll be a Chase t-shirt.
That's right. It's a limited edition until they finally change it. They said they submitted the change today to their internal team, so I'm just waiting for it to happen. But I didn't want to not announce it tonight, right?
Hell
So we've got our mic check logo, our broken name logo, that Shattered Mark Order podcast. Then we got a couple double-sided t-shirts with our logo on the front, and then on the back it says join the Mark Order or join the Mark Order logo. That's a nice one, a favorite of mine. And then I also like the 2 mics shirt. It's got a small logo on the left breast. It says join the Mark Order, and on the back it has our Mark Order podcast logo that looks like our second sticker. So ladies and gentlemen, I said I would do it before the end of the year. and it is before the end of the year.
It is.
Now wait, where is the All Night Schlong t-shirt?
So Schlong, I hate to tell you this, but we can only have 4 designs up at the moment.
Okay.
There's a certain, I don't remember what it is. If we have to hit a certain, sales, threshold, right? And then they'll open up more shirt designs. But that is the plan, Schlong, in the future. Maybe we can each have like our own custom
No.
t-shirt.
I think we're missing the point here, though, that like I'm pretty sure I should be in the original batch of 4.
I think that's a little heavy-handed.
I agree.
You're not even a day one Mark Order podcast.
Actually, I've been on the Mark Order since day 1. I was special guest at day 1, but I was here. I wasn't on the Wednesday show from day 1.
Fair enough. You don't come out to events 90% of the time.
That's true.
We don't have officially sponsored events, so I'm not required to. It's not in my contract. Second of all, when you have one that fits as well into a pun as I do, then you can argue.
I feel like you are trying to nickel and dime us here. I feel like we're going to have issues with your OnlyFans, just like Mandy Rose, and like days from now. It's going to be a huge problem.
Depends on how graphic you get upset about. I get pretty graphic on there.
Exactly. Like, I don't know if I want that representing the Mark Order brand. I have a lot of hesitations about you just having your own t-shirt. And quite frankly, out of all the bullshit that I've taken for being a big timer, you trying to squeeze in here with your own shirt, taking all the profits.
I'd like to remind you folks too that the money that comes in from these t-shirts goes right back into the kitty. You're not seeing a dime of it. It's going right back into this show. If you need a microphone, we'll buy you a microphone. If we need a StreamYard renewal, it's what this is going to be used for.
Hell yeah.
So
you say that now, but when All Night Schlong is the best-selling t-shirt, I'm going to demand my cut.
Well, what I can tell you is right now we have 4 Mark Order podcast t-shirts. Nobody has their own shirt yet, but if we can sell enough of these bad boys and open up our additional shirt designs, we will certainly do some solo t-shirts for the people who want them. So why is everybody leaving the video chat?
Kate started it. I just completed it.
Yeah, no, I remembered I was logged in and I had enough of my shit.
I'm laughing at my head because our logo could really turn into a very graphic All Night Schlong shirt.
I mean, listen, if you would like to
I'm not even being serious about that one.
I know.
I just happened to look at it and say, oh my God.
But I'll tell you this in all seriousness. If you'd like a solo shirt when we're able to do that, that's fine. You give me the design, I will get it into the store. But
no, I actually have no desire for that, but of course I have to say it.
I have a huge desire to blockade that.
Okay. Well, hey,
mine is like 4 of 4. Okay. Everybody else gets one first.
Is this like a Metallica Jason Newsted era where the 3 of us get, even though Matt's not here, the 3 of us get heavier votes?
Yeah.
Than,
Ryan's
Schlong?
Like a hired gun. He's just there to play. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Now, Ant,
yep.
I'm going to ask you a question here. Why are you siding with Kate? Because I'm pretty sure that you and I are responsible for a lot of 2-man shows.
I am not on anybody's side.
With Kate. You're siding with Kate.
I was just asking Kate if that's if that is the way she thinks, because sometimes it's the way I think, Schlong. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm like, hey.
Seniority is important.
Right. It's really like, okay, you have 1 vote and each one of us have 1.5.
I think we should, you know what? I think from the first episode of the Mark Order podcast, not the Wednesday night show, the Mark Order podcast, we should count votes by how many episodes we've all been on.
No.
Because Ant would get first.
I certainly would get first.
I'm like 99% sure I'm second. Then Kate, then Matt. So we should just do it that way.
Choose the criteria.
You guys were losing the lead here. It's a moot point because we can only have 4 shirts. What we need.
My goal is to lose the lead at all times. What are we talking about?
I'm trying
think
to tell
the
people
Chris-
how they can find our store, and if they'd like to support us in a financial way, they can buy a nice t-shirt. It's here before Christmas. It won't be to you by Christmas, but you can certainly say, I ordered you a shirt. Here's a picture of it. It'll be in your inbox whenever they print it and get it to you. So if you would like to check out our t-shirts, you can go to prowrestlingtees.com and go in the podcast and YouTube channels, and we're there, the Mark Order Podcast. The URL is like prowrestlingtees.com/related/Mark Order Pod. I don't know why it's so long, but here's what I can tell you. The link tree is now updated. You can actually find a link directly to our store on Pro Wrestling Tees in the link tree. So if you head over to our social channels, it is going to be the first link you see there with the t-shirt next to it. So be sure to check it out. And if you do order a t-shirt, we really appreciate your support.
Your grandmother will love it. She wants that t-shirt.
Grandmothers, mothers, aunts, stepmothers,
grandmothers,
great grandmothers,
captains
daughter,
of ships,
captains of industry,
captains
Centennial.
that are named Sean Dean.
the captain.
Yeah, we should send him one.
I mean, you can send him one if you have his address. Sure, we could send him one.
I put him over constantly.
I like the Captain Sean Dean. I've
So
seen
does
him wrestle a
MJF.
few times in Raw Way.
MJF does not.
Yeah, he does.
I just realized how we should vote for things here, and it's by ROH pay-per-view attendance.
Oh shit!
So how many for Ant?
All of them.
No, because you didn't go to Philly.
You didn't go to Philly. I was in Philly.
Oh, that was new. I did go to a Philly. That was New Japan, though.
Yeah,
I have 2.
I've got more than 2.
I got them all.
Well, wait.
I haven't.
Was Philly an official Mark Order podcast road trip?
I don't know if it was sanctioned.
I don't think it was sanctioned.
An overnight.
Well, the first one doesn't count because you guys didn't invite me. You legitimately didn't invite me to the first one.
I mean, that's where this was all born, my friend. So
that's true.
It certainly.
I still think it's by how often you show up to the show.
It's
Listen, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because either way you slice
it. I stay hungry. I devour.
Doesn't matter which way we slice it. I'm going to come out on top of this list. So I'm okay. However you want to do it, I'm good.
Actually, I've decided we should do this by size and is decreasing, so that helps me out. Matt and I will take the top 2 voting positions.
It is looking good.
That was just all angles at the gym.
I think Mrs. Money is like, did I make a mistake trying to court Tony Deese when my husband, who's right here, is rapidly putting in the work, looking great.
Niecifying, as we would say.
Trying.
Niecifying, yeah.
Trying, although I'm not going to get sprayed in the face with cold spray. I have to tell you that much.
Hell no. Apparently it's terrible.
Oh, I mean, why would you think anything else? I mean, it doesn't look pleasant.
No, but cold spray in general is like awful. We sent Cass from Body Slam as a joke-ish, and he was like, I used it. It's awful. He was like, I thought it was like a fun little joke and would be like, kind of like Icy Hot. It's terrible.
He said it burned.
Yeah, it was awful. It's like, this shit sucks.
Burning is the opposite of cold spray.
That's true. I guess like a freeze burn.
Yeah, like a freezer burn type deal.
Okay.
He's got a
what's the about? I heard it, Kate.
Oh, it's just like that's the worst feeling ever.
Oh, all right. It sounded like you were making fun of Schlong for a minute. I'm like, hey, he didn't actually that time he didn't deserve that.
No, I wouldn't make fun of him for that.
Right.
No way.
For you guys, I'm going home.
Oh.
Anyway, there's our big announcement for tonight. Pro Wrestling Tee store is up, so if you would like to support us, please head over. You can get there directly in our link tree, or you can search us on Pro Wrestling Tees. They're ready to order right now, so please certainly order it right now.
Hurry up.
If you really want to support us, you order one of each. That's one shirt for each of us.
That's right. And stop watching this video. Just go to Pro Wrestling Tees. Leave a thumbs up on your way out.
We'll sit quietly.
We'll
while
still
you do
be here. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We probably won't even have started talking wrestling yet.
I mean, we're still not talking wrestling.
That's my point.
Ugh.
Yeah. We could talk wrestling. You want to talk wrestling?
Let's talk wrestling. Unless anybody
We
has
had
any
wrestling?
figures to open.
I do have a box that arrived.
Is it another gamble box where we don't know what's in it?
No, it says ringside
Oh, all right.
collectibles.
Who is it?
Gina bought the box. Oh, sorry. Gina bought the box into the office the other day, and she goes, "You got a package?" And she goes, "Stop, please, stop." And I was like, "I don't even know what's in here. Like, I really don't even know at this point. I pre-ordered so much stuff, and they're starting to come through. I don't even know what it was. I still haven't opened it yet. That's how much I don't care. How about not that I don't care? It's how much it. Money's no object.
It can
AntMoney,
wait.
right?
That's right.
Ant, money's a big object. We're trying to get people to buy our shirts.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I'm talking my personal account, which has nothing to do with this show's budget.
For
right?
just 70 cents a day, you can support the Mark Order by buying a t-shirt at Pro Wrestling Tees.
We should also probably tell people that this was one of the things we wanted to do this year. Oh, that's what I wanted to tell you guys too. The other reason it took so long to do that was because at one point, Pro Wrestling Tees didn't really give any idea, nothing on the submission page told you what size everything needed to be, the file format, the pixel, like the DPI counts and all that stuff. And I couldn't find it anywhere. I was finding competing information on their own site. One place was saying it had to be an Illustrator file. The other one was saying it had to be a PNG, blah, blah, blah. So I went and looked a week or two ago, and they finally had all of the file sizes. So I was able to do it, and then I had off Friday last week, and that's what I spent my Friday doing. See what I do? See what I do for this show? I spend my day off. I wasn't even supposed to be here that day. I spent my day off coming up with the shirt designs.
Locked and loaded, baby.
Ready to go.
Respect.
So I don't have any figures to open, Kate, but I did see this walking through Walmart the other day. Hangman Adam Page. I'm trying to get rid of the glare.
It's
Hangman Adam Page. So this was
unmatched.
A Walmart exclusive. He's got his pitcher and a glass of beer, I guess. I don't know. That was a nice find. Happened to be walking through the store, and I was like, I don't know if I have that. So I just picked it up.
Did you have that?
Don't know. I'll tell you this, Schlong. If I were to turn this camera one way or the other, you will see a stack of boxes like on the bed in this office. Because this is my office / spare bedroom, but it's not even a spare room for like a guest at this point because I've got so many boxes stacked up on this bed that I have to go through. And this is how nerdy I get. I have to fucking inventory what I have because there's been certain times I've seen emails from Ringside Collectible and stuff like that. Like, oh, this is up for order. And I'm like, I definitely didn't order this. And then I go and look and I'm like, oh, I absolutely did fucking order it.
You got a spreadsheet?
I'm going to have to. I mean, I probably showed you the spreadsheet I have for my music collection. It'll be very similar to that.
I just don't know how, when these arrive, you don't open them immediately. I'm like,
because they usually get here in the middle of my work day when I'm ripping my hair out, and I'm like, I don't have time to do this, and then I just forget.
Touche.
But it won't matter because the day I have to inventory everything's going to have to get opened. True. Most of the ones that I order, though, the whole set, like when it's the set of 6 getting released at once, they usually come in the box, like the factory box that says. What?
Think about it. It'll get there eventually. No.
I
they usually come in the box.
I didn't. But I don't pay very close attention.
He said when they come in the box.
And I said, ew.
So juvenile. Unprofessional.
Yes. This entire show's juvenile.
I know. So eventually I'll go through all of these boxes.
All these boxes.
Boom. So guys, why don't we talk a little wrestling?
Sure.
I mean, we don't have to necessarily go through Rampage because there's two things.
Rampage.
There's two things I'd like to actually bring up from Rampage.
Mhm.
Because most of Rampage was really kind of leading into Ring of Honor. And Kate, I'd like to chat with you about Ring of Honor on a couple things because Schlong, myself, and special guest Danny Magic did our post show
Yeah, you
Saturday
did.
night, and you big timed us and booked yourself on a different show. So I'd like your take on a couple things there. But as far as Rampage goes from Friday, a couple things. One, that Moxley Takeshita match was the shit.
Oh boy, big time match of the night. I had to watch SmackDown too. Phenomenal stuff. Takeshita being back, man, great shit. Like, he hasn't had a match that isn't great. This was, I think, was the second one with Moxley. His one with Claudio at Battle of the Belts, I think, was my favorite. But Asian Joe's the best. For those
Asian
of you,
Joe got his gray Chase Mark Order podcast shirt.
he did get his great Chase Mark Order podcast shirt. Our first sale. Ring the bell.
Wait, I don't have a bell. I do have one, but it's in my drawer. There you go. Schlong's ringing his head.
Takeshita's fantastic. What a signing for them. I think he could do really great work on either brand. Like, I could see him having an ROH championship run that would be really successful, but they sure did bleed a lot. And I was like, maybe he's lining up to join Blackpool Combat Club, because that would also erase any language barrier concerns that you have right there. But it was a loss where they bled a lot. And I was like, that's very interesting, especially since before Regal left, there was a whole like kind of hinting that he might join. So I think it would be a very welcome addition to the Blackpool Combat Club. Not sure if they're going to try to keep things as trios, because now there's a trios division, but fantastic match, man. Fantastic stuff. Beat the hell out of each other. And he has one of the best German suplexes in the game. Takeshita, my God. Textbook stuff.
Yeah, for sure. It was a really entertaining match, and not that I think not that I didn't think it was going to be entertaining, but you know, it definitely over delivered, I think, because
it had no stakes. So you
Right.
were just like, oh, this will be good. And it was like, holy shit, this is great.
Right. So it was fantastic, and yeah, the blood didn't bother me because it looked like he took it the hard way. So nothing you could do about that, but it looks like it cut him pretty good. Schlong, anything you'd like to add about Takeshita? Really happy to see him back.
He's a big boy. Like I don't realize it until he goes against someone who's also of we know Mox has got decent size to him, and they see Takeshita, you're like, they're of size. Like, they match up, and I'm like, wow, that's a big boy, because he moves so well that you don't think about it. I wouldn't say like he's a high flyer, but he just moves so smoothly in the ring that you don't really think like he's got a lot of size to him. That's going to do him a lot of favors coming down the road when he has to match up against other people, and he's got the physical look to match up. It helps with his charisma. As weird as it is, just being a big guy and his natural in-ring charisma, it all plays out really well, especially since he can't really cut a promo because of the language barrier.
And then after that match, Hangman comes out and brawls with Moxley. So they're setting that story up. We'll talk about that tonight when we get to Dynamite. But nice to see they're continuing this story about Hangman and the concussion. So we'll get there when we get to Dynamite. The only other there's two other things I want to mention. One, Sheeta defeating the Bunny. I don't think anybody thought the Bunny was going to get her title shot. But here's the other thing. Does anybody think that either one of these ladies has a legitimate shot to take the belt off Jamie Hayter? I don't think so. Unless somebody give me a reason why Sheeta would take the belt off Jamie Hayter immediately after she just got it.
No, but in the same way that I think we all knew Starks wasn't going to win, like, I feel like it's very rare that someone in their first title defense is going to drop it. especially someone that's as hot as Jamie Hayter right now. So you might as well go with the story of former champion, extremely like well respected, and ring style wise, Sheeta lays her shit in. So like her and Jamie having a really physical match, I think could be fun. But I don't know who you set up. That's not the long term story we're going for here, so
Right.
I don't have a problem with it. But I understand what you're saying.
My only problem is, one, this is the same thing we're seeing, like you said, it's the same thing we're seeing with Ricky, right? Does anybody have a legitimate shot to take it off her immediately, just like MJF? No, and we'll talk about MJF and Starks in a bit. But I also just wish they wouldn't do this, right? Like our thing with Starks was, okay, he's got a title shot, we don't think he's gonna win it. Oh, he got the shot at the ring. But then they put them together on the same night. Like, why couldn't you spread it out? It just made no sense. I just also sort of don't understand why they're just immediately going and doing this with Sheeta. Like, I would rather them build somebody else to take a legitimate shot at her rather than her saying, I'm just going to give the next person who has a match, and wins a shot at the belt. I mean, Sheeta will, I guess, give it validity, right? That she's a badass and she'll be able to beat Sheeta, but I just still don't like what they're doing lately. It seems like they're just throwing people at the champs with no thought behind it.
Well, I think they're going to get to Britt and Jamie at Revolution, so maybe this is a part of that. Would just be just pure guess, but like I think your women's main match at Revolution is going to be Jamie versus Britt. So I have a feeling, even though you're using Sheeta to get there, maybe something happens where we're slow burning Britt again or something like that. But I think with the women having limited TV time, having regular title defenses is something that's really good, especially since Jade is not the strongest in the ring, right? Like it helps to have somebody that can go. Like Toni Storm was defending it pretty regularly, and I felt like that was healthy for the division. Also pulling up this from Kyle K. Sparks, this legitimately made me really happy. Nyla Rose is not the first one out of the gate here. Very good thing. So
yeah, no problem with that.
But I understand what you're saying. You're kind of like, where's the story? But we've seen so much growth in the women's division since Toni Storm took the title in August, and we've grown leaps and bounds. So I'm trying to like let things settle in, and
sure.
They did this with the men tonight too. So I kind of like your champion defending quickly, but at the same time, you're right that this is just kind of snapped together.
A minor note, William Morrissey, they changed his name, or W. Morrissey, excuse me, changed it to Big Bill. Seem a little WWE-ish to you guys? Because it certainly does to me. Bill?
Seems a little, there's been a guy going by Big Bill on the indies for 15 years to me that has a very similar look to Morrissey and has been wrestling like a decade longer than Morrissey. So I don't like that. It feels very, and he wrestled on AEW Dark. So he's literally been in front of their eyes. Like, I don't like that. But I also, yeah, he doesn't feel like Big Bill to me. Like, that's a weird one.
Well, it's the Big Bill.
I like, even if it was Big Bill Morrissey, I would like that better. Like that would feel a little more like almost 80s-y or something than like present day WWE, but not for me. Didn't like it, and didn't like that there's like an independent talent going by that's pretty well established in the indies right now.
It was just weird where they're like, it's Lee Moriarty and Big Bill. I was like, what the fuck? Okay. We're just going to flip it. And maybe one of the bigger sort of pieces of news that came out of Rampage, Orange Cassidy had his mystery opponent, winds up being Trent Seven. And I didn't even think about it, but they did say on Monday night, and I went back and checked it, that when the challenge was thrown at Kip Sabian, when he turned to walk away, he did the mustache twirl as he sort of turned away from Orange Cassidy. So he sort of tipped his hat a little bit. But that was nice to see Trent Seven. And that was a really fun match to me too.
Yeah, that match, I thought that was great. That was a really fun main event. And I didn't know if it was going to be able to hang with what we saw from Mox and Takeshita, but I thought it was super, super fun. And I'm just a huge fan of the way they've used Orange Cassidy in this title reign. I think it rules. And good for Kip Sabian getting to like be in the story that is more than wearing a box on his head.
Well, he's no longer underappreciated. So that's good.
Agreed.
Schlong, anything you want to add about Trent 7?
Well, I wasn't sure if I'd be lost because I've never seen Trent 1 through 6, but it was a good match. I thought it was a lot of fun, and Kate's nailed it. This Orange Cassidy run's been great, especially because they don't have him being like going out there doing these fire promos on "I'll fight everybody." It's basically like, if you want to fight, let's fight. It's perfect Orange Cassidy. He makes him a fighting champion without showing that fighting champion emotion. It's perfect.
Right. And then after the match, they did the beat down on OC, and then Dustin Rhodes comes out to make the save. So they're setting up, like I guess a tag match, and we'll get that. We'll see that this Friday. They sort of got to it tonight, so we'll get there in a little bit. But all in all, those were the few things that I wanted to mention on Rampage. Now, Kate, since you weren't here, as I said, I wanted to, just touch base with you on the Ring of Honor pay-per-view. We're not going to clearly go through the whole card because we did that in depth on our post show. And for those of you who maybe didn't realize we did it, you can find the post show we did Saturday night after the pay-per-view on our YouTube, or you can go to whatever podcast platform you listen to your podcasts on and listen to it that way. But Kate, overall, just the show, what did you think about the show?
I thought it was fantastic. From the 0 hour all the way through, I thought it was really, really strong. That Briscoe's FTR tag match. I mean, what can you even say about FTR anymore that hasn't been said already? Like, at Fight Club, they're doing like the Fightful Awards on Select, and they might lose like tag team of the year because they've split their own vote 4 ways between all 3 Briscoes matches and Aussie Open. They've split their vote because it's just like, I don't even know which is the best of the year, and whichever one I choose might be the best tag match I've ever seen. I thought this was incredible. I didn't really know how a double dog collar match was going to work, but they made it work. I know some people didn't like Jericho tapping out to the swing. I actually loved it. It might not be the most, I can understand like you're forfeiting a championship because you're dizzy thing, but everybody hates taking that move. Everybody hates it. And it is one of the most over moves in wrestling, and it's something I've never seen before. And he was spinning him for like a real long time, really far into this match. So not only was I just impressed that Claudio was able to have that strength that deep into a match, but I thought it was clever as hell. I thought it was so much fun. 0 hour was great. Jeff Cobb is incredible. I would love to see more of him. Loved seeing Cheeseburger and Eli Isom. That was a really fun shout. The 6-man was good, other than Dante almost killing himself. Really, really great stuff there. Like, just felt like really great wrestling to me all the way through. I think Athena winning is awesome. Trying to think what else. JD Griffey, I think, got to shine, which was really interesting. Like, the whole Shane Taylor, Keith Lee, and Swerve story was going to play out the way it was going to play out. So the fact that they took the time to kind of agent that match to show off JD Griffey, who's the least known in that, I thought was just like a very cool type of thing. And I know we kind of say it ad nauseum, and I know the Shining Wizards guys say it ad nauseum. Ian Riccaboni and Caprice Coleman are just the fucking best duo. And this was an all-time commentary performance, especially during that tag match. Like, just absolutely, absolutely fantastic stuff. They did such a good job of bridging the gap between fans that might be less familiar with the Ring of Honor brand and are watching because they came over from AEW, and the people that do tune in are absolute diehards, right? So that's like a very difficult marriage, but just incredible stuff. Like, all of these great insights. I really liked Ian Riccaboni saying, like, we all talk about how Jericho reinvents himself, and usually that's talked about because character-wise he's done so, but he said that makes him so dangerous in the ring because he's built up decades of this unique arsenal where he's always switching it up. And I was like, God, what a great like application of that we don't hear.
Yeah.
Like just unreal performance on commentary. We got to see Willow and Trisha Dora for a couple minutes. That was great. So I thought the whole thing was a home run. I know some people were like not into the stories in it, but I actually thought like stories were pretty good. Like Daniel Garcia and Yuta, long burn, another fantastic match where they were using the psychology of pure rules really well. FTR and Briscoes was obviously a long burn. Chris Jericho and Claudio was too long of a burn. Mercedes and Athena goes back to the indies. Like there's plenty of story there. So I didn't really understand those complaints. I think people are just sick of it being on AEW television and we're making stuff up. But I thought it was an absolute home run of the pay-per-view. If you called it pay-per-view of the year, I wouldn't think that was an exaggeration. I still probably go with Forbidden Door, but really strong from 0 hour to end and well paced. God, what was it? 3 hours plus a 0 hour or whatever. I was like, can we do this all the time, please? What a breeze of a watch.
Yeah, I know that as we were sort of, texting back and forth during the show, we were like, there's a lot of matches on this card. This might go till 8:00. Like we might have to start our post show at 8:00. And then, like when it ended, like when we got through the first hour, I was like, oh shit, we might only go to 7. Like, and that wasn't we were just trying to logistically figure out what time we were going on. Right. So that was just, sort of what we were doing. But I thought it was well paced. We talked about the card structure too. We thought the card structure was good. I think the only down spot that we all sort of agreed on in the pay-per-view was that opening match because of the weird botched finish.
Yeah, that was a bummer. And it seemed like everybody was caught off guard in it. So
yeah,
I can't imagine they intentionally booked Roosh to lose. That would be so weird with the current state of the product. I think Samoa Joe and Finn, Finn. I'm so used to Finn Juice. Juice Robinson, I think, suffered from placement on the card, but I loved the match. Like I thought Juice Robinson kind of brought some stuff out of Joe that we hadn't seen before. But I agree with you. The structure of it pretty much through and through was really good. But yeah, that was a bummer on that opening finish.
And they are using that match to sort of like tell some sort of story, or they're lining up a story because it came out that Roosh was suspended and fined for putting his hands on an official, right? Because after the match, he was sort of going nuts and they were beating down AR Fox because everybody was sort of confused.
I think they did that to get their heat back. Like, I think they knew something fucked up, and which is really, really good thinking on your feet stuff because something went wrong.
Right, clearly. And to your point too about Samoa Joe and Juice, we talked about that as well. That was probably the best match you could have put after the dog collar match, because what else were you going to put there? Thank God they didn't put the women in that spot, because they got so much heat for Full Gear where the women were and the crowd seemed dead, that I'm glad that they put the women on second, gave them, a crowd that was, into the match, that wasn't fully spent, after that giant dog collar match. And if there's anybody who can fight through sort of a crowd that's been exhausted, it would be Joe and Juice. So thought that was good. Schlong, I don't think we necessarily dug into this in our post show, so the question will also be posed to you as well as Kate. Any issues with so many? We sort of talked about it, Schlong, but Kate, to you first. Any issues with so many of the titles changing hands that night? I did see some chatter online that people were like, "I can't believe all the titles seemingly changed hands." I didn't have an issue with it.
No, this has been such a murky period of time for Ring of Honor that I don't have an issue with that at all. I think you had to get it off Jericho if you're not going to TV. Makes a ton of sense to have Claudio be that guy instead. If you're shopping around for TV deals, Jericho's going to be one of the more recognizable names, right? So you want it on him. But Claudio should be the guy out of those two to have it. And I think it was a surprise to a lot of people, so I really liked that. Daniel Garcia and Yuta Wheeler are going to be fighting for decades. I don't have a problem with Yuta being the one to hold that at all. Served a bigger story, and the match was fantastic. And Athena definitely should have gone over. And FTR should have probably lost to the Briscoes. You can't have 3 matches and have a clean sweep, right? That's a really boring fucking program.
Right.
So, and I think they want to get it on the Briscoes. They're going to be on Honor Club, so there's no TV conflicts there. I think we're starting to see FTR start to have to question themselves after losing to the Acclaimed and now losing to the Briscoes and an absolute knockdown drag out fight. And that to me was always more about the story than the actual titles anyway. So, but the only booking, it's not even a complaint I had, but if you're looking for something, I thought it was weird to have the Top Flight trio going over, oh my God, what's their name? Taven and OGK and Maria.
Yes, the Kingdom.
The Kingdom.
The Kingdom. Thank you. Yeah, that was a little weird, though. I'm probably more interested to see what happens with them as they've lost. But it did seem like any of the New Age Ring of Honor guys did not go over for the most part on that pre-show. But that's just me really, really nitpicking. I thought it was awesome.
It's funny, Kate. I actually said the same thing in the post show. I said I thought it was odd that Top Flight came out on top over the Kingdom because the Kingdom are true Ring of Honor guys, but I wasn't disappointed in the outcome. I said maybe they just were doing what they were supposed to do, right? Put over young talent and have them look good sort of going into the pay-per-view. I had no problem with it. I'm with you. It was sort of like a nitpick. I think the Kingdom's poised for more to come when Ring of Honor hits television. And that leads into I think the last thing that we could sink our teeth into. So obviously that news broke when we were in the middle of our post show, the non-announcement about television. And the reason we say non-announcement is because they made such a big deal out of, television and Ring of Honor. And then the announcement was sort of like, a dud, essentially, that it's going to be on Honor Club and you're going to have to pay for it. So Kate, we talked about it and we were sort of like trying to figure out ways to spin it that would make sense to why they were doing that way. Schlong, I'm not sure if you had a chance to think about it longer, now that we've had a few days to digest it. What did you think of the announcement, Kate? Did you feel disappointed like we did?
No, because I was gonna pay for it anyway. I love the Ring of Honor product. I think the catalog is awesome, and I think they would be silly not to realize that they need to add value. I think it's just something to satiate, and I don't know if they're done. I don't know if they're done shopping. I feel like fans that are not me are gonna be pissed off that they have to, or not even pissed off, just not gonna pay for it. Because you're giving away Dynamite on quote unquote free TV, but now you're charging for your somewhat developmental product. And it doesn't sound like they didn't say anything about getting discounts for pay-per-views. So I was like, oh, maybe they're just going back to the old model, but the old model, you got the weekly TV for free. So I think it's a bad decision to create a barrier for buy-in on a product that has not as much interest anyway.
Right.
Which is silly. Yeah.
And that's sort of what we talked about, right? It was sort of the same line of thinking. And we had said, there are going to be people, like Danny Magic said, like, I don't mind spending $9.99, but I know it and I love it. I said the same thing. I actually have to go sign up for Honor Club. I keep telling myself I got to go do it, and I just haven't done it yet. By the way, I actually think they're doing a pretty good job at selling it with having Ring of Honor talent get on and basically say, there's so many matches that I love from the Ring of Honor catalog, and they mention them, and then they're selling you on the $9.99. I think that's been pretty good, but I think we were all sort of in that same mindset. And what we had sort of said, Kate, was maybe had they said it's not going to be under Honor Club, but Honor Club is sort of being rebranded as an AEW app, right? And it will have AEW's catalog, and it will also have Ring of Honor's back catalog, and it'll have the TV show weekly for Ring of Honor. Like maybe that would be an easier sell on people, because now you're going to get the AEW catalog in addition to Ring of Honor. And right now we don't have a catalog for AEW anywhere, unless they're thinking about integrating it into the Honor Club, which again would sort of be backwards if you ask me, because like you said, it's I'm going to say quote unquote lesser brand, because,
100%.
it is to most. So yeah, I mean, I feel like that would have been the easier sell, right? Brand it under AEW and then just say, this is where Ring of Honor is going to have television. And this is where you can find their catalog.
Yeah, there's been some chatter about like maybe they'll offer New Japan content under the Honor Club umbrella, which would be really smart for New Japan to tap into an American audience. And then there's some people, because Tony Khan said it was a soft launch, that maybe this is just to tide people over so that they can get something in the books but are continuing to shop for TV. It kind of blows my mind that, we like said it online a few times, like True TV can't set aside, an hour of Impractical Jokers reruns to run Ring of Honor. Like it's just kind of an odd thing, but between the mergers, between all of the cuts that came with the Warner affiliated streaming services, I'm not like totally surprised, but it did feel like an underwhelming announcement. And it's just weird when you can get like you said, what's kind of positioned as their A brand, or some might say the Mark Order-esque brand,
right?
Of it for free every Wednesday, and then you're going to go and charge for what most people call like the Shining Wizards brand, the B brand, that you have to go then charge for that. Just it feels inherently backwards, and it just doesn't seem like a good plan for when you're trying to create buzz. However, the like reskinned version of it is an awesome thing. Them rebooting the brand, I think, is a really awesome thing. I just want to see Ring of Honor television, so I'm excited about it. But we'll see. I think it's going to be a lot of work to get people to buy into a $9.99 price point. I also thought it was weird that they didn't do a $5 tier and then an ad-free tier at $10 or something. That's like a high price point for that when you consider like WWE is the biggest wrestling company in the world, and they're doing their pay-per-views on Peacock for $5 a month, right? So like it's kind of a big ask for a lower, I don't want to say quality, because it, based on what we saw this weekend, it could be my favorite wrestling brand, but certainly like a lower exposure brand in that regard.
Here's something I was thinking about. So post to you, Ryan, because this didn't come up when we were talking. What if they were going to do something like either TNT or TBS, somebody, or maybe even like a channel like True TV? They say, okay, and we don't have any details on what Ring of Honor TV is going to look like, right? We don't know if it's going to be an hour, if it's going to be 2 hours, if it's going to be, all pre-taped. We have no ideas yet. But let's say, hypothetically, Ring of Honor television is going to be 2 hours weekly. What if they did something like take a few cuts from the show that week, like an hour of content or even a half hour of content, and they were able to put it on TV, on TNT, TBS, True TV, whatever, and say, if you like this, you could buy the app for $9.99 a month and you can get the full show. Or even maybe do something like that on YouTube to get people as an incentive to buy. Would that, any thought to that helping?
I mean, if you can get anything on True TV, they wouldn't have had to go to Honor Club because you would have already had the deal. I think YouTube, though, that makes sense. Put in like the highlights package of Ring of Honor for the week. Like, hey, here's ROH TV this week, and you show maybe a match or a couple highlights from each match or something like that. Absolutely. I don't think they're ever done shopping for the new TV. I mean, no one's ever done. Even AEW is still shopping for the next contract, even if it's only with Turner. This definitely feels, I said it Saturday, and I feel more of it now, is that this definitely feels like they realized they had to do something. You couldn't continue to just drag ROH on AEW without a plan. So this makes sense. I still, like you said, firmly believe, and I think Doc Mueller said it in the chat too, had they rebranded this as like Elite Honor Club or something and said, listen, this is everything in one, putting our AEW back catalog on here, putting our ROH catalog on here, you would have had a much easier sell at $9.99. Or, like Kate said, what they did with the Honor Club before, TV is free, but if you want the catalog, that's $9.99. Because I think you'll get the same amount of people that'll sub for TV would likely sub just for the catalog. I don't think that's going to alter a lot. So, but you would have had the free TV. they're going to have to get clever to draw people in. I mean, I've done the math a couple different times. They're looking at like a $5 million a year revenue stream. I don't know if you can run a wrestling company like that. Like and granted, I'm making like estimating numbers here. I don't know, but I'm just taking it. We took a percentage of what their best buy rate was. Like they're just,
Sure.
it's to me, it still makes sense on someone's streaming service. It's just crazy that they went with their own. Not necessarily crazy that they went with their own.
Well, it's certainly
no
not going to be
wanted
HBO Max.
I
Sorry, everything froze on me. I didn't realize. Sorry.
no,
Yeah,
all good. I was just gonna jump in and say, like, they might have just wanted to start something before these streaming services, like the Discovery Plus merger, all that bullshit. They might be like, let's start something, let the dust settle with those, and then reapproach or something. Very possible.
Oh, 100. I absolutely think that's probably, and it's easier to sell when you have a product. So when you can show, like, if they can show, hey, we're getting 12,000 to 15,000 subs for $9.99 a month for our one product of ROH, they can go to a streaming service and say, we'll throw in AEW and maybe we'll add in like an hour of AEW, something on just streaming plus all of ROH. You can probably put together a decent sales package there. But the only thing that excites me about this, and it took me a while to think about it, is by being on your own platform, they are not limited at all what they do.
True.
There's no limit. You're not trying to please TV masters. You're not trying to please, like, there's whether that's good or bad, but it really will be interesting to see what's like. No one's going to tell you how long this has to be. No one's going to tell you how short it needs to be. No one's going to, like, let's just see what they do. They could end up, they could not say accidentally, but they could end up walking into a very good TV show simply because they're not being told what to do and they're letting the wrestlers and creative come up with it.
My bigger issue is that you're getting less value on this Honor Club than you were on the old one. Like, old one, you had free TV and you had pay-per-view discounts that were pretty steep discounts and stuff. Like, that to me is the maladjustment, is you're actually getting like less access than you were on a product that wasn't working before. So we'll see.
I agree on that. The only thing I will say is it will depend heavily on what this New Japan relationship is, because we know there's some relationship. Tony Khan did say that much. It's going to depend on the extent of it. If it is, as he kind of hinted, danced around, it could end up being BS. But if it is like the home to New Japan Strong, their catalog, and it's home to a bunch of other New Japan stuff,
and he also
that changes value markers. Then
he also mentioned the other. He didn't say anybody by name. He said New Japan, I think, and other promotions. So
could you imagine if they get, like, you get New Japan, maybe they get, like, imagine if they get PWG or someone like that the hardcore wrestling fans really love. Even people who don't love ROH might be like, well, I would pay to have access to that. Like,
I wonder if they go get MLW, because they've never found a home. That would be like the easiest free ad. I don't have any interest in watching it, but it's like, if you're just sucking people up, you might as well. They've always had access issues. Impact is obviously, access has literally, and access the channel and access in general has always been their issue. It could be a bigger hub than that, but we'll have to wait and see.
You could become your own, legitimately your own channel, like streaming channel for all of this wrestling, if you could figure out a way to share revenue with certain people.
Yeah.
Like, in theory, if they could, I guess maybe it'd be too tough, but if they could figure out a way to share revenue, you could bring in an MLW. You could bring in an Impact if they didn't like access. You could bring in these people and be like, hey, we are the hub for anything that's not WWE.
They could also even think about if they were to go offer something to, like, Game Changer, right? I mean, there is a rabid enough fan base for Game Changer where if you said we're going to include a catalog, you'll suck a few more people in, right? I mean, they can do a lot with however they're sort of envisioning this. I just think that, it was sort of like a letdown when you're expecting a big TV announcement for free TV and then you get this. Asian Joe saying, follow the Shining Wizards Network model. What could go wrong? Well,
it's true.
Are they able to fight off the PC police? Because if you're not, the Shining Wizards Network model just goes away.
That's
I was
true.
going to say, it's free access. You get great merch deals like your gray Mark Order Chase
Mhm.
shirt.
Mhm.
And all you have to do is sit through a few commercials.
That's right. We're not going to commercials yet, Kate.
Oh, I thought that was the perfect segue.
I know. I was thinking about it. I just did want to call out a couple things that came across in the chat. Asian Joe also said maybe they use a few episodes of Honor Club as a proof of concept to better get to better sell the product for a TV deal. I don't think that's impossible. When you think especially about something like what the WWE network did, right? They had NXT on that network exclusively for a long time, and it got so much traction that finally NBC Universal said, we want this on our TV. So they put it on TV. Now, personally, I think at that time that was part of the hook of getting the network. And then if you didn't care about the back catalog, you pretty much could have canceled it, but you got the pay-per-views. I think the other thing too, Kate, you had mentioned pay-per-views at a deep discount. Yeah, I mean, I totally get that. And I said that too when we were talking Saturday. Maybe they figure out a way where if you can prove your Honor Club membership, they will give you a discount on Bleacher Report, because they said they're going to stick with the Bleacher Report relationship. And that's totally fine. I get that. But
terrible? No offense, Doc.
I don't listen, I don't disagree with that. I think everybody sort of agrees that app needs a lot of work. Knock on wood, lately, the few times I've used the app to watch pay-per-views, I haven't had any major issues. So I'm at least lucky for that.
Remember, if you get any technical issues, hit up Chris Mueller, Doc Mueller, on Twitter and ask him specifically why your app isn't working.
I also hope the doc got the stickers I sent him. Those are expensive stickers for somebody else. They're going to pay for my car to get fixed. I got crashed into that day. Kyle K. Sparks also just letting us know he's our Ring of Honor expert. Oh,
got him.
Good. Kyle K. Sparks did also say the new Honor Club is a major improvement. There's holes in the catalog that need to be filled, like all of 2007 and a lot of older stuff, but it does navigate better, and what's there is great. Yeah, that was something that we know was a problem prior. I had mentioned it, like, Millionaire Matt had given me his login for something. I'd asked if I could watch something, and it was so hard to navigate. I think I just gave up. But now it's, reports Kyle K. Sparks and some others are saying it's so much better. So that's good. And then a question was also posed from Gordon Post. He said, in your opinion, what's worse, Ring of Honor TV being on Honor Club and having to pay for it? I'm adding that into his question. Or it being on a channel hardly anyone gets. Like when Impact was on Access, I didn't get access. I had to find a way to basically log into like my parents' TV account on Verizon to be able to watch it on Access when they, were on Access. So what's worse in your guys' mind? I think it's worse being on a channel hardly anybody gets, because I'm willing to pay for it, but I think I'm the minority, because I think that what we said, Kate, was the casual fan. And I'm not talking like casual as in like, I like wrestling, I'll give it a shot. I'm talking casual as in I'm an AEW fan and I'm willing to give this a chance. I think, you're going to have the hardcores buy into it. The casuals you'll get a portion of, but not all of them. Mm-hmm. What do you think's worse?
Well, the thing with Access was at that point, they had also at least had it streaming on Twitch. So you could go to Twitch. It was just that Twitch kind of made it a little messy sometimes. Mm-hmm. But it was available. I think putting a paywall for your weekly is a bad idea. I would say that's worse overall. For me, I'll pay it because I love Ring of Honor and I'm excited and the catalog's invaluable. So for me as a fan, not being able to access it is worse. In the grand scheme of things, I think making people pay $10 for weekly television is not great.
Schlong, would you prefer TV that you didn't get or the app? What's worse?
Ooh, that's a ooh.
They both suck.
Yeah, they both suck, but I think you're better off. I mean, I guess an app. I mean, if I don't get it, it doesn't do me any good. You have to at least give people the possibility of watching it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we will see. More news will come out about, whatever this TV is as we get into the new year. But, more to come on that, and more to come here on the Shining Wizards Network Mark Order podcast, episode 90. I definitely fucked that up because I was looking at something saying, do it like the Shining Wizards Network, and I just said Shining Wizards.
You said there's more to come. So much more is coming, including winter.
Winter is coming. We're going to talk about the arrival of winter.
Not the show, just the season.
That's right. How to prepare for snow, what you should have in your shed or your garage to help make your life easier.
Car maintenance.
That's
right. Be very informative.
Tire chains, necessary or not. You're going to hear about all that coming up here.
4-wheel drive versus all-wheel drive. It's going to be really compelling shit.
Very true. And as Kate said, we're going to let you hear about some of the other shows that are part of the Shining Wizards Network. So sit tight. Think about paying for that. You don't have to pay for the Shining Wizards Network. We're going to pay for the Shining Wizards Network. Some of these shows aren't going to be there after we buy it. I can tell you that much. But take a listen. We're going to rehydrate. We're going to come back stronger than ever and talk about winter is coming here on the Mark Order podcast.
Everyone knows a lot of things can change in the span of 10 years. But when it comes to professional wrestling podcasting, one thing is still guaranteed. The Shining Wizards is the only place to get all the latest wrestling news, interviews with the greatest guests, and of course, tons of laughs in discussing the world of wrestling. The show is still available on Monday nights at 7 p.m. East on rantdmradio.com and Rant Entertainment Media on the TuneIn app. And it's still available on all podcasting platforms. To check us out, head over to shiningwizards.com, where it's still wrestling talk and talk about wrestling.
Because of the obvious threat to untold numbers of citizens, and because of the crisis which is even now developing, this radio station will remain on the air day and night. This station and hundreds of other radio and TV stations throughout this part of the country are pooling their resources through an emergency network hookup to keep you informed of all developments.
Horns up, everyone. One on the Shining Wizards Network. Be sure every Friday to check out Radioactive Metal. Radioactive Metal is one of the longest running podcasts on the interweb. And every week we bring you a fistful of metal, including interviews with all your favorite artists, discuss all the metal news, and feature the best tunes on the air today. So grab a Lemmy, join your cool Uncle Snowy and co-host Aaron in the pit.
Your recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment broadcasting from the current to the way back. Join the Impact player Phil Brea and the Portuguese man of war Choppy for the Turnbuckle Throwbacks Wrestling Podcast. Live every week on rantemradio.com. Get all our episodes over at iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, Audio Boom, Google Play, ShiningWizardsNetwork.com, and TurnbuckleThrowbacks.com.
Are you tired of being told what to think and believe by Hollywood elites and politicians who just don't care about you?
Tired of not getting the truth when you watch the news?
Tired of trying to figure out what pronoun to use?
Tired of mob mentality when all you want to do is think for yourself and make up your own mind?
That's where we come in. This is Justin.
And Vince.
Your hosts of Inconclusive Breakdown.
We are a weekly anti-PC podcast bringing you entertainment and current event news without any spin.
If you want to truly stay informed on what's going on in the world, then give us a listen every Sunday, anywhere you get podcasts, at least till Zuckerberg and Twitter Jack deplatform us.
And as always, we're proud members of the Shining Wizards Network.
Tired of the PC police telling you what you can and cannot say? Want a show that travels back to the 80s and 90s, where the badass hosts have beaten down cancel culture on 3 separate occasions and carried on to gloat about it? Since 2013, The Midnight Jury is that show. Travel back to the malls and arcades, pop in your VHS, and join us where the 80s and 90s return from the dead. Conan, tell them where to find us.
WLWstudios.com, home of the Midnight Jury podcast, hosted by Midnight Mike and Calvin Brody.
Also available on all major podcast platforms via the Shining Wizards Network, and join in the conversation on Twitter at Midnight Jury.
What's up, wrestling fans? You want something awesome? Check out Wrestling Night in Canada here on the Shining Wizards Network. We're 3 Canadian metalheads uniting for the love of pro wrestling. Every episode we go over all the latest news and special events with the odd unique interview as well. So grab a cold one and check out Wrestling Night in Canada, eh?
All right, we're back here on the Mark Order podcast. We're going to talk about winter's coming, but we do want to plug a couple things before we get into it. Don't forget, we announced earlier we have our Pro Wrestling Tee store live. We've already had one order from Asian Joe. Thank you, Asian Joe. But if you'd like to get to our Pro Wrestling Tee store, you can go to prowrestlingtees.com and search Mark Order Podcast. It should come up. If you'd like to make your life easier, you can follow us on any social platform at Mark Order Pod, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and the Linktree has a link directly there. It's also got a link to request free stickers. We are certainly still sending out free stickers. So make sure you click the link to request your stickers. Give us your name, your mailing address, and the country you live in. We're asking for an email now so that if you leave out your mailing address, I can say, hey, where am I sending these? So I don't have to leave anybody out. And if you do that, we're going to send you some of these free Mark Order Podcast stickers in the mail. Let's see. Corey Michael says, as a first-time listener, that was a trip. Yes, we certainly would agree, Corey. That is a trip. Some of those commercials need to be updated. There's no longer a Twitter Jack. It's now a Twitter Elon.
And the Shining Wizards podcast is not 10 years old, but 11 plus.
That's right. That's right.
And pretty
Wait,
sure
12. No, 11. My bad.
It's 11. I'm pretty sure Twitter Elon is on the side of those guys now. So
yeah, would seem.
If you are a first-time listener, you can take a guess that some of those commercials don't exactly line up with us, but
we're doing our part for the network.
It is true. And if you're a first-time listener, you can go get your Chase Gray t-shirt from Pro Wrestling Tees, only 500 manufactured. There will be thousands upon thousands of orders, we can only assume. So go get those before Pro Wrestling Tees fixes the setting to make them all black.
That's right. We're talking about this gray t-shirt, our Mike Check logo on Pro Wrestling Tees. We had one order come in for it, so we know there's at least going to be one out there in the wild at some point. Is Schlong singing Nookie?
You caught it. I was whispering it, but I absolutely was singing Nookie.
It's so much creepier when you sing Nookie in a whisper.
Yeah.
It makes it uncomfortable.
For the Nookie. Come on, the Nookie. Come on. So you can take that cookie.
Oh my god, can we talk about Dynamite?
Yeah, I just want to see how long he was going to go.
I didn't realize how creepy that was, but it is very creepy. I'm willing to accept that.
He was more like a captain gimmick than anything else.
It's true.
Now that even the captain would be creeped out by that one.
I might have to pick a bone with Millionaire Matt, who is on a part-time contract with us if you are here for the first time. I gave him my Chris Jericho Cruise Director bobblehead, okay? I assumed when I did that, Matt was going to be around more. And Cruise Director Mike, definitely not Chris Jericho bobblehead, would be a bigger part of the show. And I feel like we still deserve to have him be that. So I might have to ask for it back.
Question.
You're going to go ask for... You're going to go ask... You're going to take Baxi?
I might.
Cruise Director? Wow.
Because it was a conditional gift, okay? It was like
move.
Under the assumption that Matt would be here more and that we would get to see Cruise Director Mike. But I might just be able to take it back off of his shelf. He has so many figures, I doubt he would notice.
Kate, there's a note here from Doc. He said he'll buy a shirt if Kate can tell me if she got the stuff out of the package I sent her. Wink, wink.
That sounds extremely rated R, but yes, I did.
Oh, all right. That's 2 shirts.
Now, my question. Did mentioning the captain make you think of Cruise Director Mike?
Yeah, that must have been it. Yeah.
I'm just trying to piece together how that like popped into your
Yeah, it
brain.
must have been the captain because I was thinking captains and boats and Jericho cruises. Oh my!
Well, maybe we'll get one this year.
It's true, but they switch up the gifts every year, so.
So, Ann, I don't think you know, Kate bugged me for 2 years straight.
I did.
And I gave in, and I'm going on the cruise.
No, really?
Yeah, she bugged me enough for 2 years straight that I'm like, fuck it.
Wow. Doc, I see your note there. He just clicked by before sending the chat, but he's glad to know. I did see that, Doc. Thank you.
I love Doc.
Oh,
Doc rules.
He's the best. And again, I can't stress enough. If you have any technical issues with Bleacher Report, he's the guy to go to.
He is.
Now that
definitely.
you told me that you clicked by, it's back on. Buddy. All right.
Also, Aunt, are you a Lord of the Rings fan?
I did enjoy the Lord of the Rings films. I tried to watch just so you know, I tried to watch the show on Amazon, and I got, I think, through the first episode, like maybe a third or halfway through, and I fell asleep, and I tried to do it again, and I fell asleep at the same point, and I tried to do it one more time, and I fell asleep, so it did not happen. But yes, I did like Lord of the Rings.
Well, first of all, on the show, I liked it, but I've come to realize that it's because I'm like enough of a nerd for that stuff that it hits my level. But the second reason I ask, and Kate could fall asleep, is what is your opinion on Frodo? Is he a bitch?
I don't know what this is in reference to. I assume it's talk that happened somewhere else. I don't think Frodo's a bitch. I thought that he had the weight of the world on his shoulders and he needed a large support system.
Doc thinks Frodo's a bitch, and then he calls me Frodo, calling me a bitch, and I believe Frodo is not a bitch.
I do believe Frodo's a bitch.
I'm back.
Damn it.
I'm back now that we're calling Ryan a bitch.
Somehow that got you two united. I'm not very happy about this.
That's twice tonight we've united, a united front against Ryan until Kate doesn't show up again, Ryan. Then you and me are back full time.
Yeah,
I'm going to be here the last show of the year, Aunt. So.
Yeah, I know. I will not be.
He should just follow Doc so he can, complain about all the app issues. You should actually, I don't know his Twitter handle, but he's Doc Mueller. He Bleacher Report writer. Very good writer. I'm actually going to give him credit, even though he calls me a bitch and he's inaccurate about that. He is a very good writer who does great interviews with pretty much just the top stars of the industry at this point. I think he was even saying that seems to be all he gets. He did a fun Soraya one recently. So go follow him. He says Sam is the hero of the story, and I agree Sam is the hero.
Oh my God,
can
we talk about Dynamite? I don't care about
Kate.
figures. I don't care about Lord of the Rings. I'm in on baseball talk. We haven't even talked about
Hold
Aaron
on.
Judge.
We did talk about Aaron Judge.
Time and dollars on your show last night regarding puns of Christmas. I think I can talk.
That's your own fault.
But my point being, that's the show you put on elsewhere. So do not.
If we were going to talk about Christmas puns, that would be fine. I don't care about Frodo and I don't care about figures.
So it's only about you and what you like?
Yes.
I'm going to say this to end the Frodo talk and Lord of the Rings talk.
God bless.
Chris Mueller says Sam is the real hero of that story. I'll say this. I think Sam is a little bit of Sam's a little bit of a bitch. And I think that he secretly wants to get with Frodo. I think he's just really like, at one point, I think he's carrying him and he's like, I love you. I have you, blah, blah, blah. I think he's got the hots for Frodo. So I think there's some closeted energy happening.
I mean, that's fine. That's fine. We could embrace.
I feel so seen.
That is a joke from Clerks 2.
It's excellent.
All right. Let's talk about Winter is Coming. Winter is
wait, this is about Winter is Coming,
yes.
But I don't think we'll start with this. So in case you don't, I want to make sure we point it out.
Okay.
Getting the rights to the NBA music.
That was going to be the first thing I said. So yeah, I did notice, I think it was today, I noticed in the preview video, and then I saw a story. They secured the rights to John Tesh's song. I don't remember the exact name, but the one that they used to use for the NBA on NBC.
Round Ball Rock, baby.
Round Ball Rock. That's it. I knew it was something with round ball, but I couldn't remember. Anyway.
Round balls.
Yeah, that was fantastic. To truly give that best of 7 sports feel. I thought that was a really nice touch. And we lead directly into that being the first match of the night, Death Triangle versus the Elite, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks in the best of 7 series, match 4. And Don Callis was on commentary for this one. We're going to cut to the end here, but there are a number of things for us to talk about. When we get to the end of this match, Death Triangle wins. You like how I said Death Triangle? I put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. Death Triangle wins by submission, the knee bar from Phoenix on Nick Jackson. So now Death Triangle is up 3-1 in this best of 7 series. Now, we should mention that Nick at one point in this match appeared to tweak his ankle. He wasn't tagging in at one point. He went to the back. He came back. He was taped up. He got in the ring, and Death Triangle was able to use the hammer on his ankle and then put the knee bar on to sort of get him to tap out. And then post-match, Omega gets on the mic and he says there's enough talking, but he's got a message for Death Triangle. And a 3-1 deficit's hard to come back from, but they keep using that goddamn hammer, and Kenny wants it to make it legal. So not just hammers, but all weapons. No DQ, to be clear. So they did set that up. It did become official during the night. The next match in the series, match 5, will be a no DQ match. Now, they also went on further to say that that if it does go to match 6 will be a Falls Count Anywhere match. And if it does happen to go to a match 7 will be, oh my God, I had it written down and I can't find it. What was match 7? Ladder, that's right. And they called it an Escalera de Muerto or something like that match.
Ladder of Death.
That's right, Ladder of Death match or Death Ladder. So I enjoyed that. But yeah, I didn't know if they were going to start with this. I figured they'd probably start with it because there wasn't a whole lot announced on the card tonight. And we obviously had our championship match, which was going to be the main event. I guess first things first, do you think that Nick Jackson really did tweak his ankle here? Or is this something that we saw almost like at Forbidden Door where Dax ran to the back and came back? Now, he did really, I think, like dislocate a shoulder and it popped back in and they sent him back out. But I wasn't 100% sure because Nick did look like he was in pain at one point, unless he's a really good actor. And this is just leading into the next thing. But it could be really bad if he is hurt because they got to get through the next series of matches.
Yeah, I hope it wasn't a real injury. It does feel like, why wouldn't you have Nick Jackson in the ring more if it was a fake injury? Do that spot later in the match. But I also feel like, I don't know if I love them being down 3-1 because now you kind of have promised it's going to go 7 with laying out these stipulations all at once. You kind of have to deliver on them, I feel like. And I always assumed it was going to go 7, but that just feels a little telegraphy to me. I'd rather they just kind of like evened it up here, but I guess they're trying to build like the babyface big time comeback. I'm sure Aaron Boone will show them footage of the Red Sox coming back against the Yankees as a sign of inspiration because he's a fucking idiot. But being down 3-1, never a good thing. They reference that in a real sports context, which I very much like. That it's not like good to be on the brink of elimination, but now that you've laid out the stipulations from all those matches, I'm like, well, you have to give them to us. So, but yeah, I thought the match was, I mean, these guys aren't going to have a bad match. I'm glad they acknowledged the use of the hammer being something that's in and out, so that they took that question mark off the table for the next one is good, because if you're doing a best of 7, you better make all 7 of them feel real different, because otherwise it's just a bunch of boring rematches. So I appreciate that they did that. I just wish they had announced each stipulation as they went on, because now I'm like, well, it has to go 7. You can't announce an Escalera de la Muerta match and...
Did she mute herself?
No one muted you, Kate. You just muted.
Oh no.
You're good now.
I was saying that you can't give us an Escalera de la Muerte and not deliver it to us. I mean, it's a death letter, for God's sake.
Very true. And I think Schlong, we had spoke about this too, was we wanted to see them sort of escalate these matches if necessary, and now they're giving it to us, right? So, I sort of like how they laid it out. No DQ, then a falls count anywhere, so things do escalate from that point, right? Because no DQ still got to be in the ring. Falls count anywhere is no DQ, and then can happen anywhere in the facility, and then Escalera de la Muerta will be obviously no DQ, right? And you got to climb up and they'll do crazy shit. So I think they escalated things nicely with the stipulations, but I'm sort of with Kate. You got to go 7 now.
Well, they were always going to go 7. Like, let's not kid ourselves. That was always the plan.
That's surely the hope, sure.
But I'm with Kate also, though, that I wish they had tied it up just so that it didn't feel as like built-in story. However, I do appreciate that they are trying to make each match feel different. That is 100% why I'm confident the Nick Jackson thing isn't real, because that made this match feel different. This is the match that he wasn't there for the majority of the match. Like, it was a different feel than you'll get the rest of these. And now they have a story to tell through the rest, which is, can Nick Jackson go? The story you told in the first half was, what about the hammer? Now you're telling the story of, like, is Nick Jackson healthy enough to fight? So it's a nice story to tell throughout. I mean, maybe I'm wrong and he is, but it feels too much like the FTR thing. Like, I think they saw a great moment in that story that was real, and they said, well, let us make that happen now. I'm sorry.
The FTR one was real.
I literally just said they saw a real moment in the FTR thing and said, let's make that now into a great story.
Right, but you don't know what's wrong with Nick Jackson if that is real. So,
but my conclusion is it isn't.
Right, but if that was real, the only reason Dax went back out there with a dislocated shoulder is because he's a real tough son of a bitch. If Nick Jackson's is real and then they find out it's serious, you don't get to really lean into that story very much.
Yeah, that's my point, is that I don't think it's real. I think they planned this to make this match feel unique. I think he never comes back out if it's a real injury because it's ankle and you don't fuck around with ankles. I think they would have just had him stay in the back. I think they brought it out for a very specific reason, and it's to tell a story for both this match and long. And I think they based off the fact of the real moment they saw at the FTR match, which ended up being a hit, and they're turning reality into a storyline.
Let's assume this is a real injury, and let's say, for argument's sake, Nick Jackson can't possibly make it through these next 3 matches, or he'll be severely hampered. Do they they have to slide somebody else into the mix?
You lose the match. You lose and it's over.
What do you think, Kate? Ryan says they'd have to call it.
No, you freebird it. I don't know who you bring in, but you bring someone in.
Who else could come into the Elite? It can't be Hangman.
Cody Rhodes.
Oh, Roadie Codes. Okay. That makes sense.
Fuego 2, but it's Fuego 1.
That's right. Or it could be not Nakamura, right?
There you go. Perfect. Adam Cole, but he's just there as a figurehead.
You don't win.
Could be Brandon Cutler. A couple people say Brandon Cutler.
That could be fun. But we'll cross that as we get to it, I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll see what happens next week, though. No DQ. That should be fun. Guys, we get an MJF promo backstage being interviewed. He says Starks finally had a good turn on the mic, and everybody's saying it was to start making performance, but he was a star from day one, and 1,000 hits and no misses. MJF says it was 1,000 hits, no misses for himself. People claim that Richard made himself a star, but in truth, Max did that because he's a star maker, and you're welcome for the rub. And then he mocks Starks for talking about growing up poor and living out of a car and eating out of a dumpster with raccoons, and says he doesn't care. None of that matters. The only thing that matters is if you're the world champion. And the simpletons at home relate to Starks because their lives suck, but they don't fix it. They just moan and groan and complain about it. And Ricky says he had it easy. MJF had it easy growing up, but he's right. MJF says he was born rich, attractive, better than you, and he's not going to apologize for it. Everyone is rooting for Ricky to win the big one in his home state, and that's pressure. And tonight we'll find out what happens when pressure is applied to the Pebble, because there's no pressure on Max. And the question we're left with is, will the Pebble turn into a diamond everyone claims him to be, or will he turn to dust? And we go to a break. Guys, just another good, solid promo out of MJF. Clearly building to this match tonight. And I guess what you'd want out of the guy wearing your strap, right? Somebody who can talk and lead, these promos and build into this match. I didn't have a problem with this. I liked it. He addressed everything that they did last week.
I really liked it. I really liked him leaning into the fact that he's privileged. Like so many people trying to get away from that and talk about the way that they've earned themselves. And I feel like a heel like him should not be doing that. I feel like he should be leaning into the entitlement piece. So really, really liked that. The only nitpick is that Ricky Starks has been great on the mic the whole time. He just hasn't had the opportunity. So I didn't like that he kind of was like, oh, they finally turned it up or whatever. Like, that's not a reflection of him. And that's just been something that's so glaringly obvious. But that's an extreme nitpick. I thought this was great. And I thought the story that gets told later is absolutely fantastic in this. So good stuff.
Schlong, anything to add about MJF?
What a dick.
Yeah, all right. That's a good take.
It's fair.
So, guys, we get back from the commercial, and the Acclaimed are making their way out to the ring. But Jay Lethal, Sanjay Dutt, and Satnam Singh, and Kate's favorite, Double J, Jeff Jarrett, attack them from behind, and they lay them out, as well as Daddy Ass. And Caster starts to fight back in the ring, but inevitably he gets overwhelmed, and he eats the El Kabong from Jeff Jarrett. And Double J asks if they have the Acclaimed's attention now, and tells him to scissor that slap nuts. So clearly, Kate is getting exactly what she wants. A program between the Acclaimed and Double J and Jay Lethal, right? That's what everybody wants to see.
This time, not only do we get Jeff Jarrett, we also get Jeff Jarrett coming off of a loss to Sting and Darby and now working their way to a title shot. Fucking stupid. I hate it. Get off my screen. This is the most stacked tag division in the world. Put those tag teams on. I understand it's not the long-term story. I don't care. Put better people on for your short-term stories. I don't know what the obsession with jerking off Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett is. Get them off my screen. It's fucking stupid. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And now it makes even less sense because they just fucking lost. Dumb.
Well, they're goading them into a challenge, right, for the belts. So that's all that's happening. The Acclaimed is going to be
lost. Stop
putting
losers in this dumb position.
I understand, but Schlong, do you think at least that makes sense, right? They're goading them into giving them a match.
I don't care if it makes sense or not. I fucking don't want to see it.
You guys just don't know fun. That's what this is.
Of all of us here, who has been the most willing to just ride with anything for the sake of fun?
Kate.
Jeff Jarrett just isn't fun at this point.
Why? He's got El Kabong.
He says slap nuts.
That's hilarious.
He's not. His matches aren't fun. He just there's so much more talent in this company. Why is he getting the push?
It's just to make the Acclaimed continue to look good. That's all it is.
They don't need him to look good. They just beat fucking FTR.
So who are you going to give?
I'd rather them feud with
Sting and Darby,
anyone.
Private Party, Iron Savages.
Okay, what claims do any of them have to a title shot?
You could build
as much
them up.
claim as Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal do.
Okay, and
Darby and Sting just won. They're ahead of them in that regard.
They're going to Japan for what's his face. They're not going to be.
Send Jeff Jarrett to Japan. Lose him in the ocean. Fuck that guy.
Nothing wrong with Jeff Jarrett. You guys got to open up your brains.
Suck a guitar.
I mean, if you want to. I mean, we get a recap of the Claudio win over Jericho for the Ring of Honor Championship at Final Battle, and Jericho gets interviewed backstage with the JAS in tow. And he says the giant swing is barbaric and should be banned, and he's going to take out his frustrations on some jobber to tune up for his inevitable rematch against Claudio. And then Daniel Garcia is starting to get asked about losing his Pure title, and Jericho interrupts Garcia and tells him he just needs a little more seasoning and he should shadow his elder, Sammy Guevara, and learn a thing or two from him. And that's when Sammy says that he can learn Friday night when Sammy will face Jon Moxley because he got punched in the face. And he wants to take it out on him. And then, of course, Jake Hager adds that he likes his hat, which is always fine in my book. So we knew Jericho was in action tonight, right? So Jericho's talking about taking his frustrations out. That's fine. The bigger thing here is the Garcia having to shadow Sammy Guevara. And I don't think we're in for a long program to reignite the BCC and the JAS. I literally think we're just getting this match because Sammy did get punched in the face last Friday night, right? Or 2 weeks ago or whatever it is at this point. So I don't have a problem with the one-off match. What do we think is going on? I think we know, but let's get your opinion. Schlong, what's your take on Sammy being the leader for Daniel Garcia?
I fucking love it. When Jericho said you should listen to your elder, Sammy Guevara. Oh, Jesus Christ, I'm butchering the name. Sammy. When he said, look to your elder, Sammy Guevara. There you go. And Sammy's shit-eating grin as he put his arm around Daniel Garcia just made me so happy. And Garcia's clear look of disgust. It's a great old-fashioned storyline. I fucking love it.
The fuck are we doing? If you're gonna turn Garcia face, why didn't you pull the trigger like 8 weeks ago when this was happening with Danielson? Like, I don't know, man. I'm tired of the Jericho stables. I'm excited for that match, though. I actually feel like the chemistry should be good between the two of them. So I'll take it when it gets to that point. But they're like, keep playing with, is Garcia gonna be unhappy in this stable? It's like, we just fucking did this like not that long ago. You turned him, like, you had the double turn, you took him off TV and put him on Dark, you threw him back on ROH, and now we're back in this point where we might be turning Garcia face again.
But what if it isn't that Garcia's unhappy in the stable? Garcia's only unhappy with one man, Sammy Guevara. And what if Chris Jericho sides with Daniel Garcia?
Did we get a Chris Jericho face turn? Barf. We saw how that played out the first time.
It's not a face turn. It's heels turning on heels.
No, like it just is all too gums up for me. Like, if you do that, then it's like Sammy Guevara goes and does what? And then Jericho reforms a different stable and Sammy Guevara joins that in 6 months. Like, man, I don't have the issues a lot of people have with Sammy Guevara, because I feel like a lot of it has been really bad creative with him, and I really don't give a shit about his personal life. Like, God bless you, Pam. God bless you, Tay. I don't really care. But like, it's just too much. It just gets too dragged out, and it's too uncomfortable. Like, I feel like what we saw tonight was Sammy is the heel and Garcia is like waffling again, and it just feels like they're constant like flirting with whether or not Garcia is going to be a member of the stable. Is just like so worn out. I'm exhausted.
Well,
Yeah,
I'll
I
say
love
this.
Story.
I'll say this. Kyle K. Sparks does say that Sammy is actually about 4 years older than Garcia and has been a pro for 7 to 8 years longer. So he is actually Garcia's elder.
Cool. Wouldn't you rather learn from Bryan Danielson than Sammy? If the whole thing was Sammy Guevara was
the argument is that Garcia doesn't want to learn from.
Hold on.
Guevara.
Let me finish my point. That's if the whole thing was he wanted to stay here because Jericho's the ultimate sports entertainer. Why wouldn't the move be to rebel against Guevara and turn face? It's stupid. It's bad storytelling. I'm sorry. It's bad. Like, if the choice was I'm staying here for Jericho and the first thing they do is go put him with Guevara and he doesn't turn face out of that, that's bad. That's bad creative.
So then if he does turn face, you don't like it either, though.
Yeah, because they should have turned him face 3 months ago. I don't think they should do this story at all. He should just be in the stable if he's in the stable. You cannot go back to this well like 8 weeks after you were in this well. I don't like it.
But it's a different well. The well before was, are you going to learn from Danielson to be a pro wrestler? Or is this well, I just don't like Sammy Guevara. It's a different story. He doesn't like one guy.
But
He
we're
still wants
getting
to
to
be
the same place, is my point. If the idea is a Garcia face turn, why didn't you just do it 10 minutes ago when you had this?
Because one Garcia face turn has him being in the BCC as his pro wrestler, and others just he fights with Guevara. I mean, it's a different. He ends up at a different spot.
How about this? How about Garcia doesn't want to learn from anybody, and he's just going to go out and do his own thing. He's not going to go with anybody. He might not even face turn. He just says, fuck you. I don't need to take this shit, and I'm out and on my own. And, you know, he doesn't even need to be with Danielson. There's also a way they could go about this, and Danielson starts his own faction. He's not part of the Blackpool Combat Club, and now they do a Danielson-Garcia thing.
Just a great story to tell if you wanted to tell that choosing between his hero and his mentor, and he chooses himself instead. I still put that 8 weeks ago or whatever that was, but I like that better because I don't know. Not for me. I feel like they missed the boat.
Well, I think we're going to have to talk about this a little bit more when we get to Jericho on the card tonight, because there is another way that this can play out. So let's put a pin in it. We'll revisit it shortly. The next match we get on the card, it was announced late this afternoon. Brian Cage versus Jungle Boy Jack. Jungle Man Jack Perry. And Jungle Man winds up winning by pinfall with the O'Connor roll. And post-match, he gets on the mic and says he's beaten Luchasaurus and Brian Cage. Now he wants the biggest bitch of them all and calls out Big Bill Morrissey. And that's when Stoke enters and says Jungle Boy pisses him off. He keeps it up. He's going to see two things: the bottom of Big Bill's boot and the back of Stoke's hand, because he's a little hoe. And that's when Jungle Boy charges, but Lee Moriarty and Big Bill are able to intervene and beat him down. Stokely says they should have music playing. Rest in peace, New Jack. But Morrissey choke slams Jack in the middle of the ring. That's when we get the save from none other than Hook Brother. And he stands in the ring with Jungle Boy as the firm runs off. They actually shake hands. So maybe we see Hook in a tag match here in some sort of program. Hook actually just celebrated 1 year since his debut. So maybe we're going to get Hook a little more involved. Who knows? Either way, I thought this match was just fine. We're seeing more of Jungle Boy. I like more of Jungle Boy, right? And I didn't have a problem with this.
Yeah, I think there's something fun to set up for with Jungle Boy and Hook versus Morrissey and Lee Moriarty, because you had Hook and Lee already in a really great match and Hook's biggest challenge by far. I cannot get behind this Big Bill name for not only gimmick infringement, but it just does not feel like it suits him at all to me. Right. Big Bill feels like to me reads as like rednecky, like, so well there's Big Bill, you know what I mean? Like, does not click, but love seeing Stoke on my screen. He's great. RIP New Jack is hilarious. I can't think of two more different wrestlers than Jungle Boy and New Jack probably, but Jungle Boy's great, and I'm glad we're kind of moving on from this Luchasaurus Christian Cage stuff. Glad to have that in the rear view. So good shit. I'll take it.
I also didn't mind this match because it closed the loop on the story, right, from the Battle Royal with Brian Cage. And clearly, you know, they're starting to move Ring of Honor off of television as much of a presence as it had. So it closed loop with Brian Cage. Brian Cage is going to go do his thing as part of the Trios Champions. So I didn't have a problem with that. Schlong, anything about this match you want to call out?
I think Jungle Boy could use a really giant dinosaur friend to help fight Big Bill. I think that's what he needs. You know, big dinosaur to fight Big Bill.
Hook's too small, you think?
Yeah, I don't think Hook's big enough. We need like a guy who's like a dinosaur.
Now let me ask you this question.
Jeff Jarrett's around. He's a dinosaur. Go get him.
He's not that big.
We can only do one match of Jeff Jarrett. Come on, Kate. Let's be realistic here.
One program at a time. We'll get there.
More Jeff Jarrett for me, please.
I have that on tape now.
And you might actually get that wish at some point. So why are you doing this to yourself?
Now let's throw this hypothetical out there. We do get a tag program with Jungle Boy and Hook versus Big Bill and Lee Moriarty. If Lee and Bill go over, who's eating the pin? Because it can't be Hook, right? It's got to be Jungle.
Yeah, I actually, now that you say that, I think Lee and Big Bill have to lose. I don't think there's a way.
Yeah, Big Bill Morrissey, or as I call him, Big BM, definitely need to take the loss. I just want to see Moriarty versus Jungle Boy. Like, get Big BM out of there and just give me Moriarty versus Jungle Boy.
That might be it too. That might be like maybe a heel cheats and then Jungle Boy and Moriarty get set up through it. Like, could be using a tag program to get there. That'd be cool. I'll take it.
It can't be Hook. Hook can't eat that loss.
No way.
Can't do it. All right. So we do go backstage after this to the Blackpool Combat Club. Danielson's still absent from their vignettes here. And Moxley says he says that they did exactly what they were going to do to make a statement. Wheeler smashed Garcia's face in with his elbow. Claudio swung a grown man until he wanted to puke and tapped out of nausea. And Mox kicked the shit out of Takeshita until he fell to the mat like a sack of potatoes. And Claudio says that in 2023, if you want to pick a fight, you think you're good, well, the Blackpool Combat Club is better. And Wheeler says that you want to fight, you got to be willing to fight like you're dead. And John says that Sammy Guevara's gutsy, and he promises he'll stomp his face into a bloody mess and leave him for dead. As far as Hangman goes, Mox always says you know where to find him, and bring your little Dark Order buddies too. And we go to break. So we're still advancing this Hangman Moxley thing. We'll get an update from Hangman later. I like that they've essentially closed the book on the JAS, and I think this is a one-off Sammy thing, so that's fine. And they're clearly still a faction. But where's Danielson? Anybody got any thoughts?
I know where Danielson is.
Not with the BCC.
I mean, but if you watch the show, we find out.
Of course, we'll get there. But we know that he's not there. This has been twice now where they're talking about the Blackpool Combat Club, and Danielson is nowhere to be found. Any thoughts to him splitting off?
Jesse Ozak pointing out he was in the heel tunnel. I noticed that a couple of weeks ago. Danielson was going back down the heel tunnel. Wondering if we get a Claudio Danielson ROH title match out of this somewhere. But yeah, they might want to keep it a trio because there's trios titles around. So they might just build up a really compelling program with whoever comes out of that. But, or who knows? I can't. Maybe CM Punk's returning and going to tag with Dave. Like, I don't know what to expect anymore from wrestling.
You have a
Andy Rose and Danielson are going to have a romantic angle. Like, I don't know what to expect from wrestling in 2023.
They have a simple out here. Either he's out of the thing because he sided with Regal, or they're letting him handle his business with MJF about Regal. And the BCC has always kind of been like, if you want us, we're here. If you don't, we don't need to be around. So they have their way around this without going too deep into the story.
Agreed. And I like Danielson working heel before all the BCC stuff. I thought that was a super fun run.
This isn't a heel run, though, if he's going after MJF. At least not to start. Maybe after MJF it is, but it's not to start.
Yeah, but that's going to be what, Revolution? You could slow burn it for a little bit.
You could. What if anybody give any thought to Danielson somehow finding a way to align himself with MJF? Really shocking everybody.
I don't think you can, just because I feel like this MJF season needs to be on his own if he's not going to be with Regal. Like, he just doesn't need it, and I think maybe clean and simple is the way to go for a while with MJF right now.
Well, we still have to figure out what's going on with Danielson. We'll talk about that a little bit later. We get back from break with the Swerve Strickland video package where they recap, what happened at the Ring of Honor pay-per-view. And he says he's ready to confront Keith Lee because he's got no friends or family in the wrestling business, just affiliates. So it looks like we are getting to a program between those two, which certainly signed me up for. I'm all good for that.
Hell yeah.
It's gonna be fun.
And then we get to House of Black. They make their entrance and get into the ring with the Factory. And Nick Camarado gets in Julia Hart's face, and she spits mist at him. At least that's what they said. Talking to Mrs. Money during that, I said she's got to work on her mist spitting, because it just looked like she was spitting some water out of her mouth.
It's an art form.
It is. She's got to take a deeper breath and really get it out. But then when that happens, House of Black take the Factory apart. Malachi stays in the ring. QT Marshall, isn't involved either in the fracas. But Buddy Matthews and Brody King are able to really dismantle the rest of the team on the outside of the ring. And then essentially we're left just with Malachi Black and QT Marshall. It was supposed to be a trios match, but there are no 3 members of the Factory that can be involved. So it is a squash. Malachi Black wins by pinfall with the Black Mass. Here's something that really annoyed me about this whole thing. The production in this whole thing fucking blew. There was one point where Brody King was looking under the ring, and they really stayed with him, and he couldn't find whatever he was looking for. I'm like, just cut away. Just cut away. And eventually he gets Big Shotty Lee in a chair. And then they cut to Buddy Matthews, who's setting up, somebody on a table. And you can hear Brody King doing his bark thing, right? Where he's going to then just really lay out Lee.
I noticed
and
that too.
They missed the whole fucking thing. They missed it. They cut back to him, and they're already on the ground. And then they go back to Buddy Matthews for the table spot, and the table doesn't fucking break. I was just like, Jesus Christ, this whole thing was just so bad. Either way, I was very happy to see House of Black back. Everybody looks great. Quick squash. I think we're going to see a lot more out of these guys eventually once the trios titles settle down with whoever's going to get them. I think they're going to maybe go after those titles. But I didn't necessarily have a problem with this except for the fucking production. They really fucking sucked during this.
Yeah, I noticed a couple of those glitches too. I love this from House of Black. I love them running roughshod over everyone. Their entrance was really cool tonight, so the fact that all the other production stunk is a bummer. But I also know I think they just hired someone in video, so maybe
Yep, we're gonna.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But I think that'll be really good.
Schlong, anything you'd like to add about the House of Black?
They need some color.
More than
Like
black.
I feel like, yeah, I know. So they need I don't know, maybe a bright pink, fluorescent green, something like that to really complement them.
House of Neon.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
no, I
I
was
think
listening. They're awesome.
pink is a heart color though. You can't do pink and black.
Oh, good point.
Yeah,
that is.
Oh, you can.
It's a heart foundation.
Yeah, but that's the most evil thing you can do.
No, but then it would have to be FTR would have to join.
True.
No, FTR have to fight for those colors back for Bret Hart.
A color war?
I don't know if we want to call it that.
No, we definitely should name something else.
No. That's you're thinking of something.
You're thinking
else.
of the camp thing that they do.
Yes, that's a color war.
Yeah, I never went to camp, but I saw documentary on it.
Yes,
and I think it was also on. Was it Wet Hot American Summer? Might have had something about it.
Yes,
but
you saw a documentary about camp.
Yeah, back when we were in when MTV used to run all those weird documentaries when we were in middle school.
True Life.
Yeah, there you go.
It was a good show. Anyway, we get a video package for Jamie Hayter defending her AEW Women's World Championship against Sheeta. And then Britt Baker is being interviewed backstage when Sky Blue, of all people, rolls up to ask if she can wrestle as good as she runs her mouth and challenges Britt Baker to a match on Rampage, which Britt accepts. Why? I have no fucking idea. It just seemed really weird that Sky Blue was like, if you can wrestle as good as you talk, then come see me on Friday. in my brain, all I kept thinking was, Sky Blue, I don't know if your record really is that good to be like, can you wrestle as good as you run your mouth? Because Britt's track record is actually pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
That was the whole point. That was dumb. Like, I have no problem with Sky Blue walking in and being like, I want to wrestle you, so let's wrestle. But to be like, are you that good? Yes. She's proven she's that good.
I mean, you only need to look at like 2 matches to be like, can you wrestle that good? Yeah, she fucking can. And you know me, never a huge fan of Britt Baker at the start with her in-ring work. She's definitely gotten better since she started with the company. So, yeah, I found that very confusing to me. Like, are you that good? Then come see me sometime. It's like, yeah, I'm that fucking good. Now, unless they do something where Sky Blue comes out with a win, but I can't see that happening on Rampage.
No way.
No
way.
fucking way. Guys, we're at what very well could be the match of the night on this card, in a packed card. Chris Jericho comes out to face, I'm going to say, Jobber Action Andretti. Now, Jobber, because that is what Jericho called him in his prior promo. The crowd also clearly didn't know Action Andretti because they were chanting "Let's go Jobber" a whole lot during this match, which I always feel is a little disrespectful. He has a name.
It's true, but they did not know the foreshadowing, which was funny.
Very true. So as we get through this match, Action Andretti will not stay down. And Jericho is really throwing everything at him. Hits him with a code breaker. He tries to hit him with the Judas effect. Doesn't work. He never connects with the Judas effect. And guys, in the one of the most shocking moments to me, Action Andretti wins by pinfall with the running shooting star press on Jericho. The crowd went wild. The crowd was into this entire match.
And show. They were hot the whole night. But yeah.
But especially this match, they were all in on. This was surprising. I honestly, me and Mrs. Money were watching this and I was like, well, Jericho could lose this match and, do what Jericho has done before and put over young talent, but I just can't see the reasoning behind it. But, it happened. Surprising. Kate, what do you think?
I loved it. I loved it for a few reasons. One, a fun, a rerun of 1, 2, 3 Kid and Razor Ramon, right? Like a very fun playbook that we don't see that often. And I also love there's been a lot of criticism about Jericho with this ROH run and how he's been winning too much and how he's willing to put people over, but he always ends up coming out on top. And do those people getting over stay over outside of Orange Cassidy? Like, what has been the value of, because Jericho runs is something that people were calling into question. So to then immediately have him go out and lose to No Name, I thought was like a nice kind of like wink and a nod that people are listening. Jericho, I think, is always willing to put people over. It's just he's such a commodity that you don't want him to lose that often. You want him to always feel viable. So I loved that they did this. They did sign said Jobber, Action Andretti. So it was obviously with great intent that this happened. But what better way to immediately make a name for someone? And it's obviously something that Jericho, A, can use as fuel, B, isn't actually hurt from in the long run, right? Like Chris Jericho is going to recover from this, and C, feels like a really fun development for him to go from the Ocho to losing his title, losing to a Jobber now. Like, that it might be fun to have Jericho question himself for a little bit. Like, he's been unshakable for a while. Let's shake him up. This is fun. This is good.
And Schlong, Action Andretti's been on Dark before. So we've seen him. You've seen him if you watch Dark. But this was definitely huge, and it should be noted. Kyle K. Sparks said it, but I didn't even mention it in this. There was no retribution after the match. There was no fit in the ring. We'll talk about Jericho again in a little bit when we get to it in the show, but there was no complaining by Jericho in the ring. He just sort of sat there stunned. They actually showed Andretti, celebrating. He did a crowd dive, all the things, you wouldn't normally see in a moment like this after a match. So it was quite surprising. Schlong, what'd you make of this?
So Action Andretti has been on Dark before. I've actually seen him wrestle live, and he is one of the wrestlers when I saw live who stuck out to me. So like, he's someone I had kept my eye on because he just has a good look to him and he's super athletic. So it was really nice just to see him on Dynamite. I never expected he would win. This was awesome. This was, people were comparing it to the 1-2-3 Kid win on the Old School Raw. You make someone out of Action Andretti, and it only furthers a Chris Jericho storyline that, like Keith said, doesn't hurt him. I mean, if he went for the title tomorrow, no one would question it. I mean, they'd be annoyed that he was going for the title again, but it's not like he wouldn't deserve it. This is great. You've just made a young guy. He's 24. Like, this is perfect. This is what you need to do. And he has got a look. He's got the skill. He did an interview with Renee afterwards, and it sounded good. Like, it's on Twitter. So this was perfect, and I'm very, very interested to see what they're doing with Jericho, especially with his fit a little bit later.
Yeah, it comes up pretty soon here, so we're going to get to it. But after this, we did get Ricky Stark's promo backstage, obviously building to the main event tonight. And he says winning the title, he says he's winning the title because he has no other options. He's grinded and paid his dues, and it comes down to this tonight. Star making turns are nothing new to him, and Max has to find validation in ratings and being a draw, but nobody gives a damn. And they do care about seeing Ricky Stark stomp his ass tonight. And they go to break. So again, just a nice promo out of Ricky building to the match tonight. I don't think there's too much else to say. We'll get to the main event, so we're going to kind of go past this. It was a nice promo from Ricky. And this is the point where when they get back from break, they show backstage and Jericho is just trashing whatever he can. He is smashing gear, kicking cases, throwing stuff around, and he eventually is yelling as he goes into his locker room. So guys, the reason we bring this up is clearly this is affecting Jericho, right? And Jericho is saying that, Garcia needs more seasoning, right? And clearly Jericho didn't do his deal tonight, and he's not that seasoned because he's stomping around like a baby. Any validity to the thought that maybe something like this starts to put the doubt in the rest of the Appreciation Society's brain that maybe they shouldn't be appreciating Jericho as much?
I think that could be really fun. Like, that could be a really fun seed to plant. I would kill to see, Daddy Magic being the last one to come to that realization, like him just being this Jericho brown noser suck up while everybody else is kind of getting wiser, I think would be really fun. Like him being like, you know what makes my nipples hard? A Jericho win or whatever. Like, you could do so much fun shit with that. I think that could be a really fun way to go. But then you got to have something, you got to have the plan for after be something that's really valuable to everybody involved if you're going to implode another Jericho stable.
What you're missing out here, though, is if Garcia takes over the JAS, it becomes the GAS.
We
got some gas, baby.
Ooh.
The gas.
Something I'd like to call out, a comment in the chat from Kyle K. Sparks. He would say that Jericho's overseasoned. Did you see how salty he was?
Hey-o! Love that from you.
He also, Kate, this one's for you. He had to give congratulations to Action Andretti for doing a crowd dive and not hurting his foot in the process, because who would do that?
No one that I've ever heard of.
Okay. All right, we get to our next match of the night, and we get Ruby Soho versus Tay Mello. I'm sorry, if you are going to say it like the song says, it is Ruby Soho versus Tay Mello. So this is a Retribution Vengeance match, right? So they didn't make light of it at all. Tay Mello broke Ruby's nose. She had to get reconstructive surgery, and boy, did she ever. That hump is gone from her nose.
That is true.
And eventually Ruby Soho wins by pinfall with her destination unknown. Post-match, Anna Jay storms down and attacks Ruby before checking on Tay. And Anna gets her up and hits the Tay KO. So this clearly is not over between Ruby Soho, Anna Jay, and Tay Mello. I guess we're going to keep going with this. I don't know. I really wish that they'd move Ruby on to something else besides Tay Mello. That's just my take. Schlong, what'd you think of this?
First of all, great Tay Mello thing. Tay Mello. Because I love that they do that now with the Sammy Guevara thing. So that's excellent. Love the match. Ruby Soho is awesome. So I'm glad to see her back and getting getting a win for herself because she deserves it. Anna Jay speed walking. I'm still laughing at it, and there's gifs of it online, and they're making me laugh. They kind of set up Willow and Ruby versus Tay J on Dark, and I'm wondering. I was kind of hoping for Willow to make her appearance tonight. I was a little upset that didn't happen, to be honest.
Match was fine. I think this is what happens when people don't get reps for a little bit. Nothing like very bad or anything, but I feel like Tay was a little bit maybe of a step off than she normally is. But decent enough match. Very glad to see Ruby Soho back. I think you might see her enter maybe like, I guess she already fought Jade for the TBS title, but you could run it back or something. Like there's ways around that. But I think you'll see her do something more valuable. I think you just have to wait for a couple other storylines to maybe clear up a little bit. But just very glad to have Ruby Soho wrestling back on my screen. Makes me very happy.
There were definitely a few moments during that match with Tay where I was like, please just be careful of her face. Please don't injure her again. I get very nervous with Tay in the ring.
I liked that they leaned into it appropriately too. They had the move that she injured her on, and then Ruby responding with a really like good looking kick to her face. I thought was a really nice touch. So some good storytelling in there without being too heavy handed about it.
The other thing I'll say about Tay is Tay needs to work on a little bit of the way she's shielding herself, because there were definitely a number of times, and they called it out at one point, where Ruby kicked her in the head and she clearly had her hand up super high to like block her face from getting kicked, like really not taking the brunt of a face kick.
Right.
And they were like, I think she blocked it, because it was very obvious. And she did it again at some point in the match where she put her hand up in her own face to block whatever was coming. It's nitpicky, but it kind of pulls me out of the moment, right? You're like, you're clearly not even close to getting hit here. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, it's a little much.
Anyway, guys, we get a Hangman update backstage. And he said, if people want a status update, if he's still got migraines every morning, if he's cleared to face Moxley, well, he'll give you the update. He should have given in October when he was snoring on the mat. He said he came to in the ambulance and they started to ask him questions, and the right answers came out eventually. Where he was, who he was wrestling. But then the EMTs gave him his phone and asked him if his son was his lock screen, and Paige couldn't remember his name for about an hour. So if Mox wants to fight, he'll be there on Friday. He knows where the ring is, but he won't go back to that hell again. He'll drag Moxley down with him. So I also enjoyed how Evil Uno was in the background for this, behind Hangman, looking clearly distraught over this whole situation. He's not ready for it. He's not cleared. We don't want to do this. It's an interesting story they're telling. And they're clearly, I guess, sort of slow burning this probably until after this match on Friday night, because there's nothing else for Mox to be involved in at that point, right? Once they close the loop on Sammy Guevara. I want to see this play out. I just don't know how far it's going to go. You know what I mean? If this is going to be a quick thing, if this is going to be a super slow thing. But I like it. I want to see Hangman wrestle again. He's great in the ring. Mox is a good person to put him with. So yeah, I liked it. I thought the promo was good. Kate, what did you think?
Thought the promo was good. I found it a little weird that he was in medical now, like tonight. That just was kind of odd that he was like seeing the doctor now was a little weird. But I thought the promo was great. I think this is one of his stronger promos next to when he was like, I'm tired, I'm anxious, the meds aren't working, and I'm still here. This felt like it had that same appeal. So I feel like the more he digs into those sincere things, the better his promos are. And that's growth that I think we hadn't fully seen before. So good on him. Excited for the feud. Excited for the match. Let the Moxley family go on vacation.
Yeah, don't disagree. Schlong.
Nah, fuck Mox. Make him work forever. I assumed he was in medical, seeing if he would pass the test to be able to wrestle.
They had to interview him that second.
Yes, because Marvez is that dedicated to his job.
Yeah, he's an investigative reporter.
Get him at his lowest. This was a great promo for Mox. You know, really intense. Shows heat. Also shows why he's kind of just a little annoyed at Hangman, not Mox. Why he's a little annoyed at why Hangman is annoyed at Mox, because like, even though it was quote unquote accidental or whatever, you're gonna blame the guy who makes you not in storyline. Blame the guy who does that to you. You're gonna be mad. You're gonna want revenge. So, you know, it's a good. I'm all for this. I'm interested to see the Dark Order's position in all this, since they have been mentioned, and Evil Uno was standing behind Hangman.
And the Dark Order is sort of in disarray, right? Because, you know,
Yeah.
10 just left, and, you know, we don't really know what's going on with the Dark Order at this point. They're dwindling. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I like it. There's also a promo backstage with Dustin Rhodes and the Best Friends and the Spooky Boy, Danhausen. And he says that they'll crush their opponents, Butcher and the Blade, Kip Sabian, and Trent Seven on Friday night. So we're going to get an 8-man tag on Friday. Unfortunately, Spooky Boy doesn't look like he's part of that. But Danhausen is always a lot of fun when he's on camera. And
he's a part of our hearts, really.
Of course. And I can't believe I forgot to mention this. Jumping back to Rampage, that was one of my favorite interviews leading into the main event ever.
So good.
When Danhausen came in and was just like, this is enough talk. And Mark Henry's just going, don't do that. Don't say my line. And
especially
then when
because Orange Cassidy's been trying to hijack it for weeks. The fact that Danhausen just showed up with Mark Henry was hilarious.
And then when Mark Henry does say the line, Danhausen says, "Oh, you're going to say my line? Okay." He just lets him have it. Anyway, so we move on from this to the main event, and that is MJF versus Absolute Ricky Starks. And this is a winner take all for the World Championship and the Dynamite Diamond Ring.
Do you just want to pause back at the...
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just want to acknowledge that we, as a society, don't talk about how great Chuck E. Cheese hair is. Did you see it tonight?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it did.
My God. Like a marriage between a Justin Bieber cut and a bowl cut.
It's fantastic.
It was amazing. And he was just kind of standing there in the background. And I was like, you are not a background guy. You are a shining star. So I feel like we talk about a lot of fashion icons on this program. And we should Chuck E. T should be in that conversation.
That's why he's sexy Chuck E. T.
There it is.
So main event, winner take all, MJF versus Absolute Ricky Starks. And let's cut through it here. MJF, to no one's surprise, wins by pinfall with the inside cradle, retaining the AEW World Championship and Dynamite Diamond Ring. That, of course, happens because of the low blow. And as MJF is going to leave, the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, comes out to the ring, and he gives chase, but Max is able to hightail it out of the arena through the crowd. And Danielson raises Stark's hand, hugs him, and that's the end of the show. And we're off to next week. So, listen, I thought this match was fantastic. I think it gave us everything we wanted out of this match. I thought there were a couple moments at the start of this match that were looked a little weird, like Ricky was going for something at the same time MJF was. They kind of got through that and things settled down. Maybe Ricky just was trying to go, put on the best show possible, and they just weren't on the same page, but things settled in. And, also favorite part of this for me was at one point when MJF leaves the ring and he goes to the crowd to like take a minute. He grabs somebody's popcorn and throws it. Then he takes some guy's hat off and tosses it. Just great heel stuff that you want out of your heel champion. But yeah, I thought this match was really good. The outcome was not surprising. And, clearly there's a Danielson MJF story that we're going to get over however long they decide to tell it, whether that gets to Revolution or that gets us to, one of the TV shows right after the start of the new year. We'll see how they play it out, but I'm all for MJF and Danielson to give us a story. So I didn't have a problem with this. Schlong, I'm going to go to you first since Kate's not a huge Ricky Starks fan. So what'd you think of this? That's it. Schlong knows it. Doing the pose.
Great match. I mean, these two are awesome. There's a reason they're in the main event of Dynamite, and for the title, you have your best heel and maybe all of wrestling against such a great up and comer in Starks in terms of his popularity is just now really starting to hit its peak. The cheers for Starks when he came out were huge. I could comment a lot on the match that but I'm going to actually leave it for Kate because she made the point, so I'm not going to steal her point about it. So I'm going to let it go. But I will point out my favorite thing of all night was, so Danielson comes out to confront MJF, and he chases him. And MJF does not clear the barrier the way they think he will. It kind of moved, and I think they thought he'd just hop it. So you see Danielson have to stop so as to not actually catch MJF. And it just cracked me up so hard because it was clearly he was meant to just hop it and go, and it moved and it screwed the whole thing. I was laughing so hard. But I mean, the match was great. It was what I expected. Ricky Starks is a star, and I hope he stays in the main event picture.
Match was fantastic. Like you said in the beginning, it was took a second to settle in. I think those running rope spots are extremely difficult to calculate your speed versus where your opponent's going to be at, which is where I think it got clumsy a little bit. Like there was a shoulder block that was not a shoulder block. God, MJF in the crowd just felt like old school heat, man. Like it felt like I was watching something out of the 80s here. It was so much fun. Felt like it had a big fight feel. Felt like the type of heat MJF should be getting. Loved it. Loved MJF working the ribs because Ricky's been injured. Loved the Rochambeau attempt into the power bomb. I thought was just an awesome show of strength from MJF there. The in-match injury selling from both of them, or just the impact of moves in this in general, was amazing. MJF luring Ricky Starks into the armbar. Obviously, the low blow spot that gets set up from him pulling a referee in front of him is great. Like, this was an old school, fantastic wrestling match that time traveled me a little bit. This felt old NWA. I heard a comparison of Austin Rock IC title, which I thought was a really great call. Like, this felt like a fucking pro wrestling match. And again, I'm not one of those like anti-flippy-do people, but a cerebral, well put together match like this, nothing better in my eyes. I love this stuff. Loved MJF here because I love MJF on the mic, but the heat that he gets when he's actually in wrestling matches is the unmatched thing. And I feel like we're not going to get that many title defenses because he's a chicken shit heel, so we're not going to get a ton of matches. So this one felt big and special. My only gripe is it's so fucking stupid to have the ring on the line at the same time if you're Ricky Starks here. It's so dumb.
Right.
It's so dumb. Like, why would you be like, also my other title shot is on the line, and why would you risk giving a champion a title shot with the ring? That makes no sense. Unless MJF's going to lose it and use the diamond ring as a title shot later, which would actually be very clever. But they should have just given it to Wardlow or something. So hate that. That felt like a distraction and a match that was otherwise fantastic. But loved the way they went home. Danielson holding up Stark's arm was great. MJF running into the crowd felt a little punkish since he's been in this punk vein for sure. He was doing it in a more cowardly way where I think Punk was doing it in a more celebratory way, but he's made a lot of these Punk callbacks as time has gone on. So wouldn't be surprised if that was kind of one of them. But I loved this main event. I think Ricky Starks is so special, and the future is slowly becoming the present, which is exciting to see. Like, wrestling is in the hands of some really great wrestlers right now.
Yeah, and it is, excuse me, it is one of those things we've talked about for a couple of weeks now, right? Like, we want to see the younger talent get pushed up the card, and it looks like it's happening. And like you said, Kate, the future's bright, right? Ricky Starks is one of these guys, and he can do it. MJF is a champ. He's, in my opinion, doing exactly what he's supposed to do, even though I see a lot of criticism about people saying he's got to step it up to carry the company. I don't get it. I fucking think he's doing exactly what he should be doing, and it works for me. So it's really great to see. The future does look bright. So we're on to next week. And we'll be talking about that for sure. And hopefully the stories that emerge out of this MJF Danielson feud that is beginning to bubble up. So a couple pieces of news and notes, and then we're out of here for the night. One, we mentioned it, but Action Andretti is officially All Elite. If you didn't see it, Tony Khan did put it on Twitter around like 9:30 after the match happened. It's official with the graphic. Action Andretti is All Elite. So good for him. Good showing on TV and a huge match tonight. So that is good for him. Next up, something that came out this week is Matt Hardy on his podcast gave a little update on how things are going with Matt Hardy. And he said he's basically been doing the same thing he's been doing. He's doing exactly what he needs to be doing to get where he needs to be in life. More or less, we've got to get these legal issues behind him before we move forward. So that's kind of where we're at with Jeff, and we're hoping that happens sooner rather than later. He seems to be in really good place, which is very nice and refreshing to see. So, hopefully that continues and we get him back to where he belongs. So a short update on Matt Hardy. I think a lot of people have been sort of wondering how things have been going because he's been gone for so long. But clearly, guys, he's got issues, right, that he hasn't been able to beat in the past. So hopefully this update is true to form and they're working through all this. It would be very good for Jeff Hardy if he can get back to normal and get past some of these demons he's been battling for many, many years now.
Yeah, I feel like he wasn't like lighting it up in the ring beforehand. I just hope he's happy and healthy. I'm pretty indifferent on whether or not he actually comes back to wrestling.
Listen, I think the only reason we were going to get him, we had him back was for sort of a final run,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
So if at the very least they can get him back healthy, happy for just one final run, just let that happen and I'll be happy with that, right? It doesn't need to be a 3-year fucking program.
Right.
Get him to the titles, let him hold the titles for like a month and then take them off him and that's the end, right? And you've had a wonderful career.
Agreed.
And guys, this was something we alluded to before. There was a signing noted by AEW this week, somebody from the WWE, but it wasn't talent. It is Michael Mansory. I hope I'm saying his name right. But Mansory was vice president of global television production for WWE when he departed in 2020. What he did was basically be the lead director for many of the pay-per-view events and TV episodes during an 11-year run at the company. And when he departed, there are reports saying that he was a Triple H guy who many inside thought, inside the WWE thought he would eventually replace Kevin Dunn after McMahon's exit, but he did leave on his own accord. He served as an executive producer on the Pat McAfee show for a period of time. He moved to Singapore to become MMA Promotion 1 Championships Senior VP and Executive Producer of Global Production. And now he's AEW Senior VP and Co-Executive Producer. That news was broken by PW Insider. And his specific job responsibilities haven't been confirmed yet, but apparently he started his new job with this week's episode of Dynamite. So, it looks like a lot of people are excited. It looked like Renee tweeted about it or retweeted something from him. So it looks like this could be maybe something to help AEW with improvements to television presentation or pay-per-view, things like that. So, it's something that is good for them on the back end, right? Somebody else who has a lot of knowledge in the wrestling industry, who's worked in television and all that stuff. This could be a good win for them.
Yeah, and I think he's very highly respected. He was, I think, positioned to maybe replace Kevin Dunn in WWE. So that's a bit of a WWE loss, because I think there's a lot of people that would like to see Kevin Dunn go for a lot of reasons, but he was that's a way more complex position than people give credit for, it sounds like. So you kind of can't just give that to anybody who's going to be a risk. We've seen what bad production does to wrestling companies, right? Look at Impact. So yeah, very, very good to be thinking in those terms, I think, for AEW.
Schlong, anything about that you'd like to comment on?
Okay, covered it. I mean, this won't be a sexy signing for what we see on TV, except for the fact that he will direct what we see on TV, and that's the important thing. So, yeah, he's not in front of the camera, but the guys behind it matter a lot if they're not doing their job right.
Sure. Well, that's all the news and notes I got AEW related. News did come out today that Mandy Rose was released by the WWE. I don't know if that would excite anybody seeing her come to AEW. What I'm just trying to figure out is I'd like to see the photos that got her released from her contract, because they said they overstepped the boundaries of, I guess what they considered appropriate. But who knows? Listen, I don't pay for OnlyFans or whatever she was doing. I clearly am not paying for it, so I didn't see the photos. But it did open up a discussion with me and Mrs. Money on the couch tonight, because it's interesting when you look at the history of the E, and I know we're not a E-focused podcast, right? But it's interesting when you look at the history of that company and what back in the Attitude Era they allowed the women to do. I mean, all I have to say is Sable Bikini Contest, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, they let that happen. They let Sable pose for Playboy. I think Sunny was a Playboy.
There's a lot of Playboy.
And then China was a Playboy centerfold as well. But now, if she didn't show anything and it was just really risque bikini photos, it would be surprising.
She did show some things.
Ooh.
There's some nuances here that are important, that are worth bringing up. I think you can have third-party monetization now, and you can have OnlyFans and fan time in these kind of sites. Scarlett has one. I think Gigi Dolan's had one. There are limitations to what you're showing, and hers turned rapidly more salacious because she was out earning doing that what she was in her contract, and she was getting paid decently well in her contract, to show you how many subscribers that she had and what she was charging. The other thing is, they are now, to your point, this is not the Attitude Era. They are publicly traded PG company that is heavily sponsored by Mattel, and that seemed to be the thing that broke the camel's back here. They did offer her to, it sounds like, stop posting and to take pictures down, and she said, I'm not willing to do that because I'm making more doing that than my contract. So yesterday on NXT, she dropped the title and she's no longer with the company. It sounded, I don't think that's ever an amicable situation, but it sounded like they at least tried to create an alley for her to stick around, because they invested an over-year-long title run in her on NXT.
Sure.
So it wasn't, there was a lot of nothing's changed. Third-party monetization is still an obstacle, and there are conditions even when you're an independent contractor around what you're allowed to post, right? Like for any independent contractor. So some clarity of that came out. It does feel icky because they treated her as a sex symbol on the show for the past year and a half or whatever. So it does kind of feel a little hypocritical, but at the same time, it's like, Mattel's a pretty big deal for them, man. Like,
Oh yeah, no. Listen, there's no
put them in a
debate there.
position. Yeah,
It is just surprising when you look at what they used to be involved with, and now, you could do stuff behind a paywall and they have a huge issue with it. But it shouldn't be surprising because we're also talking about the same place that won't put China into their Hall of Fame because they're concerned that if a child Googles China, all that's going to pop up is pornography.
What's going to pop up is, did you mean China with an I?
Right. Or Black China, who I think is another model, or was married to one of the Kardashians or something like that at one point. I don't know.
Yeah, I think dating Rob.
I don't even know who that is.
It's the one boy. That's the only reason I know.
I only know Kim, and I've seen her videos. I know Kylie because she makes a ton of money off of makeup.
Yep.
And then I know the Beast, who was married to the basketball player who then got a ton of plastic surgery and doesn't even look like she used to.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Chloe.
Yeah, that's it.
All of them.
What's that?
Yeah, none of them they've all gotten so much plastic surgery they don't really look like what they used to anymore.
Oh, but Chloe, it was so noticeable when she re-emerged. It was like, who are you? Oh.
Yeah, she also lost a ton of weight. Yeah, she looks like a way different person, but
Anyway.
But yeah, I'm not like, oh, they need to go pick up Mandy Rose. Like, there's no part of me that.
No, I don't give a shit about Mandy Rose.
Yeah, I don't need that.
I mean, the only thing that would work is I feel like they're not as strict with some of their rules, right? Like if Mandy Rose was doing stuff that was risque or maybe even the same level she's doing, if it's behind a paywall, I don't know what their code of ethics is, and what they can do and not do, but it seems like they give their talent a lot of leeway. But I also don't know how much of their talent is willing to take, like topless photos or anything like that if they wanted to. You know what I mean? So Mandy Rose doesn't do anything for me in the wrestling ring. I don't need to see her, but you never know. They could look around and be like, hey, she was a big draw for the E. Maybe we bring her in. But
I'll say that she wasn't the worst in the ring. She certainly wasn't the best, but for people that are primarily booked off of their look, she's definitely like, she can wrestle a match. She's just never going to like blow you away with something. But I think we're not even getting 3 matches a week yet. I don't think we need to call Mandy Rose in at AEW.
I agree. Anyway, that's all I got, unless you guys have anything else.
No, I think the biggest breaking news was at the beginning of the show, which is that you can get your Mark Order t-shirts.
That's right.
You can get your gray Chase t-shirt. And
for a limited time. Who knows how much longer?
Yeah, till they sell out. All 500 of them.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
500. So let's do our plugs and go home. Kate, what do you do when you're not here?
Tuesdays during the NXT Fightful YouTube post show variety hour, AEW Rampage and SmackDown post show on Fridays, and usually Mondays on Fightful Select now, doing the Raw review because I hate myself, I guess. But we have a lot of fun doing it. And in January, I'll probably be headed back up to Excite Wrestling. You can follow me at Miss Kate Fabe on Twitter.
Interesting. We'll have to figure out when you're going to be back so we can figure out new things for you to get across in your commentary.
Damn right.
Schlong, what about you?
So most often, Mondays and Tuesdays, you can find me live tweeting Dark Elevation at Mark Order Pod. Tomorrow, I am on Greg Cherry's Jack of All Trades show on YouTube, I think at 5. When I said yes to that show because I enjoy the show and I like Greg, I knew it was a trivia show, but as I put on Twitter today, it just hit me that I'm going to be terrible at it. So enjoy watching me lose because I am terrible at trivia. So
not if it's all Sting questions.
If you give me a very specific error, I will be great. Or if we go into Simpsons or something not wrestling related, sure. But if we're sticking to like lots of wrestling, that's why I would never do Can You Beat That with the Shining Wizards, because I can't. I don't know. I just don't have wrestling trivia that way.
I just don't retain information like that because, quite frankly, it doesn't matter.
And man, I was out of wrestling for so long that, like, again, it has to be through the years I watched, and even then, it's questionable.
I don't know. Well, tune in to hear Schlong tomorrow. What was that again, Schlong? What time and what podcast?
It's the Greg Cherry's Jack of All Trades podcast, so I will be tweeting about it, so you can find it at Mark Order Pod, but it's Greg Cherry brand. I think at 5 o'clock, if I'm remembering my time right. If I'm wrong, then he's going to kill me, so hopefully I'm right.
All right. Well, enjoy that. And I'm here on the Mark Order podcast. You can find us, as Ryan said, on Twitter at Mark Order Pod, but it's the same handle at our Instagram, our Facebook, our TikTok, YouTube, any of those channels at Mark Order Pod. That's us. So make sure that you are following us there, because you can get to the link tree. And as Kate said, you can find a link there now to our pro wrestling tee store, where you can buy some t-shirts that we have up if you'd like to support us in a monetary way. If you would like to support us in a free way, there's also a button to click the link to request free stickers. So just give us your name, your email, your mailing address, as well as the country you live in, so that way we can send you out some of these free Mark Order podcast stickers. You don't worry about anything. I just send the stickers directly to you. And as I said, the email is really just so that I can ask you, if you're leaving part of your address out, to please fill in the gap. Guys, I also added something to the link tree where you can actually watch the latest episode of the podcast. For some reason, if you're in the link tree, you could just click the button and watch it there. Or you can go straight to YouTube in case you want to just go to the latest episode. You can also click the button to listen to the latest episode in podcast format and get to our podcast anywhere in the forums. So thank you to anybody who's watching us live tonight out there. Cabbage Sensei, Jesse Ozog, Asian Joe, Kyle K. Sparks, Doc, Gordon Post. I'm sure I'm forgetting. Slonomite was in here for a little bit. I'm sure a number of other people I'm not scrolling back to as far. But thank you to everybody who watches us live. We appreciate you. And if you're listening to us in podcast form, we appreciate you too. We do suggest you try.
Hey, Kate, you know my favorite thing? Who did he forget?
It.
Yeah, well, yes, but who did he forget?
Joe? Did you forget Asian Joe?
Well, he did forget Asian Joe.
I thought I said Asian Joe.
No, you did. But he forgot someone even more important to him.
Your wife?
Mrs. Money? She's not even listening at this point.
I'm just saying, you didn't acknowledge your wife.
Yeah, she's not listening. She's not. Like, if you're not gonna stick with it. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know if I ever actually mentioned her, because she knows I know she's listening, but whatever. And to those listening in podcast form, as I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted, we appreciate you too. Thank you. We do suggest, if you've never checked us out in video format, feel free to go over to the YouTube. All of our podcast videos are there. We have all the playlists set up. Kate, you'll be happy to know I figured out how to reconfigure our homepage. So it's most of our episodes there, instead of just one lone video making us look like a bunch of creeps. Head over to the YouTube and check us out. And anybody who's listening or watching us, it absolutely helps us if you make sure you subscribe, you like, you rate, you review in podcast forms. Anything like that helps us out, especially on the YouTubes. It helps people find us. So if you could do that, that's another free way of helping us out. So thank you for doing that. Other than that, guys, we're going to be back next week to talk about, I don't think there's a special name. Oh, Holiday Bash next week, right? Holiday Bash edition of Dynamite. I'll be here for that one. And just so you guys know, I'm working on something to read next week. If I can come up with enough things to include in the parody I'm trying to come up with, I'll read it here live on the air before the holidays. A little holiday treat.
How sweet.
So stay tuned for that. We'll be back next week. Guys, a lot of fun as always. Thank you for jumping in. And we'll be back next week on the Mark Order podcast here on the Shining Wizards Network.
This concludes the Mark Order podcast. We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming. Join the Mark Order.